Happy Friday, and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Roberts, and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Thanks for joining us, folks. It's our favorite hour of the week. I get to spend some time with Jason. We get to spend some time with you all, our dedicated audience. Jason, I love this so much, and we have so much to talk about because they are voting for a House Speaker today. What a time to be alive. There's so much controversy over what should be an easy decision. I'm just going to put my bias up front.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know, we should actually, we were talking about, like, how are we going to run this week's episode? What are we going to talk about? Todd, give your quick synopsis of where you see the House speakership landing.
Well, here's where I want it to land. And folks, I am no apologist for Mike Johnson. You can look at his tenure as speaker, and it's been a complete disaster. Gives the Dems their wish list every time a spending bill comes up, is voting to send money overseas. The border is still wide open. I can't think of a single concession Dems have got with Speaker Johnson. So no love lost. But at the same time, this is a new path forward because you have Donald Trump in the White House. You have Republicans that control the Senate. Mike Johnson doesn't need to be great. He just needs to rubber stamp the Trump and MAGA agenda. That's it. I don't care who is House Speaker. It just needs to be someone that's going to support Donald Trump and the America First movement. Donald Trump endorsing Speaker Johnson tells me that these two have spoken. Johnson knows the game. And honestly, you can get rid of him if it doesn't work out. Like, that's what everyone seems to miss. They're like, no, Johnson's got to go right now. And fine, his history is gross, but you can always get rid of him later in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. If it doesn't work out, he's not there forever. I just need someone in the House Speaker role to promote the America First agenda. I think Mike Johnson's going to do that, Jason. I have no indication otherwise right now. He's got the backing of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has the backing of the American people. Johnson's a politician. He doesn't want to lose his job. He doesn't want to lose his seat in Congress. He's going to do what the American people want, I think. So I might be a little biased. I might be a little naive. Here's Johnson rolling out the Trump agenda, but I think that's where it's going to land. And it looks like, Jason, we have indications that he probably will get the votes. Marjorie Taylor Greene has come out in support of him. We got a clip of her saying that as well. So I think some other holdouts from before are getting on the Trump train here.
Yeah, I got to say, well, first, let me give a shout out here. Rumble, we already got Kagan Girl in the house, Francis.
Welcome.
And Big Bad Conservative joined us. Holy cow, we brought him over from, he usually tunes in on the Wayne Dupree podcast. Someday we got to get him on here, Todd. We'll send him a link and bring on Big Bad. He's got a lot of good things.
Big Bad, you are hereby invited to the Freedom from the Press podcast. Let us know what time that works. Message us on X. You can drop a comment and Rumble for all we care. Let us know how we can get you on the show.
Yeah. I think my take is very similar to Todd's. The fact is, we as a political movement failed to elect enough people in the House to give us a strong enough majority to get the speaker we want. That's it. It's that simple. So now we're left with dealing with what we do. And I did a tweet on it this morning that was getting a lot of traction where I said, Trump's a businessman. Trump is a builder. And I look at this as he's looking at, okay, I got to open this hotel in a month. I've got to get this work done. The landscaping guy sucks. I really wish I could fire him, but I can't because I got to get this property done in a month. And I'll use myself as an example. I've been doing bathroom remodels. It's been like a 6-week project. When the plumber who was doing one was not great. And I talked to my contractor and like, okay, your subcontractor, this plumber sucks. And him and I had a conversation where we said, okay, do we get a new plumber? That'll require the bid to get redone. We'll have to figure out the schedule again. The project will probably get delayed. All these bad things would happen. Or do we just manage the guy? And we just managed the guy. And when he would start his thing, my contractor would send a guy to keep an eye on him or check up on him or be working at the same time. Like, the work wasn't amazing. It wasn't horrible, but we got the bathrooms done. We're on the final stages of it. The plumber's done. I think he's looking at Johnson and he says, you know what? I need him to get elected speaker, certify the election on the 6th, get legislation prepped between the 6th and the 20th. That's going to be his window to show what he can get done. And Donald Trump has all these balls up in the air, from redoing the FBI, from closing the border, from the deportations. He just doesn't need to be distracted with a 5-10 day speaker battle in the House. Like, dude's got work to do, and he thinks he can get Johnson to get done what he needs. And we're going to know right away the new rules package they'll have to vote on in the House will have a vacate the speaker context in it. So if he doesn't deliver in the first 30 days, 60 days, we can vacate the House, we can shut it down, we can do whatever we want. But at this point, like between now and Donald Trump has a very aggressive day one agenda. And we're hoping that first week is just like lights out, all sorts of good things happening. And if we get distracted right before we want all this stuff to start happening, like that's going to be no good. And for anybody that wants to blame Trump, you can. Like he could be out, supporting different House candidates. And he endorsed people like Brandon Gill, who we've done work with down in Texas. I like Brandon Gill. I think he'll support the MAGA movement, donated to his campaign. We shared some of his content. Like there were MAGA candidates out there. We had Mayor Trent Staggs in the Senate. We even had him on the podcast. We've retweeted his stuff. The Republican establishment overthrew him with John Curtis, who's going to be worse than Mitt Romney. Donald Trump endorsed Mayor Staggs. So, like, Trump did what he could. The fact is he had to win his own election. And while we like to say it was a landslide, and Trump likes to say it was a landslide, I don't think it was quite as big a landslide as it's kind of like a fishing story when he says it's a landslide, Todd. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he won and we got control of the Senate and we maintained control of the House. Those are all good things that had to happen. But by no means was it a landslide when 48% of the country still voted for Kamala Harris. He lost out Senate races. We'll say he lost them fairly in Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan. There were a lot of other voters out there. They might have voted for Trump. As we just look at the paper record, they voted for Trump, but they didn't vote for the Republican Senate candidate. Hard to call it a landslide. A big supporter of Donald Trump, but I think we got to call a spade here in this case. And Jason, I want to get to this comment here. This kind of dovetails on what you were saying. Mary Kay writes over on Facebook. Thanks for watching, Mary. Check us out on Rumble, the American Tribune, as we do exclusive content over there. At some point today, we might stream only on Rumble, so be sure to check that out. You can get the app. You can go on the desktop. Mary writes, hope the Republicans stick together. That is their main problem. The division between members of the party instead of working for a common good. Like, this is what Republicans do. We can never have nice things because Republicans never coalesce around the same idea. Like, make no mistake, Hakeem Jeffries will get every single Democrat vote on the first ballot on however many ballots there are. That's what happened 2 years ago as well. They always vote for one another. Republicans, you got to have my principles guys out there like Chip Roy and Thomas Massey. When it seems like a no-brainer, you vote for Mike Johnson because what is the alternative? And Jason, I asked Grok to summarize my profile, and Grok over on X said, you're very practical, Todd. Like, I am looking at this just as a practical standpoint. Who is the alternative to Mike Johnson right now? What do we gain with all this infighting? What do we gain if we have a prolonged speaker vote? The fact of the matter is, we have names tossed out there like Jim Jordan would be great, Steve Scalise would be great, Tom Emmer, because we got some Minnesota people that we talked to up here. And it's like, maybe, but we tried them before and they didn't work. And what guarantees do you have that they would be any better? Like Tom Emmer, Steve Scalise, really? Like, this is not establishment? So I see no alternative, and I see no reason to make this a bigger issue. Get Johnson in place, hit the ground running with the agendas, and reconvene after a few months and make sure it's all working. I don't know why this is such a hard concept, Jason.
Yeah, this should be ceremonial. And, Todd and I have an interesting perspective on governance because we're both from Minnesota. And Minnesota historically has been a liberal state, but there's always been balance in government where, like, you had a Republican governor, or Republicans had the Senate, or, there was split government between Republicans and Democrats. So for the most part, it prevented them from doing things too idiotic. This last election 2 years ago, the Democrats had the governorship. They had the Senate on a tie. So the lieutenant governor become the tiebreaker. And then the House, they had like a 1-seat majority. So they had the slimmest of slim margins, barely had control of government. They had control of all three branches of government, and they rammed through the most aggressive, progressive, insane leftist agenda ever. And if you look at the federal level, Nancy Pelosi, with a really small mandate in the House, a really small majority, she rammed through insanity. And that's because Democrats know how to wield power and want to wield power. And for guys like Chip Roy or Massey, I love Massey. Like, I don't always support what he does, but I think he's a a good guy who's up there trying to do good things. Chip Roy, like, I love Chip Roy's speeches. I think he's a bloviator. But for God's sake, Chip Roy, shut your mouth and either support Johnson or give a viable candidate. And it's funny, I've been on Twitter X all morning when somebody is coming out like, oh, I don't support Johnson. Well, then who do you support?
Right.
Because remember that meme of that screaming leftist, Todd, when Trump won, who's like, why? Anybody who's saying don't support Johnson without a viable alternative, that's what you're doing. You are that screaming leftist when Trump got elected in 2016.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
And I think part of it too, Jason, I am not a psychologist. I think a lot of this stems from anti-Trump sentiment. The same people that are like, boo Johnson, supported Ron DeSantis in the primaries. They've never gotten over the fact that DeSantis, A, never had a chance, B, ran up against the America First movement and was perceived as an enemy to Donald Trump. And never, DeSantis, they're still like, oh, if only we had DeSantis, we wouldn't have this. Look at Donald Trump. He's already caved to the establishment. DeSantis wouldn't have done this. So they want to remind you, they're trying to stick it to you, I think, when they say, I don't support Johnson. What they're really saying is, I never supported Donald Trump in the first place.
Right. Yeah, they're saying Mitt Romney was just fine. Let's get back to the days of John McCain, principled conservatives who never get anything done. And you know what, DeSantis, those DeSantis backers too, like, you guys will have your chance in 2028. Like Ron DeSantis, his term's up. He's going to probably be running for president. The fact of the matter is, if he would have shut his mouth and got on board, he'd be vice president right now. And then he would be an easy shoe-in for the nomination in 2028.
He got himself in the foot.
Right. But big money got to old Ron, and then he wanted to like take his shot at Trump. I don't know who convinced him of that. I don't know how they convinced him to do that, but it was the worst political misstep I've ever seen.
Yeah, 100%. I think he's done too, Jason. I don't think he comes back. He probably tries in 2028 because he'll fundraise from the establishment crowds. But I think Americans are like, you know what? You kind of sold us out here. We got Vivek. We got JD Vance. We got maybe somebody else that comes through the pipeline. So remains to be seen. But I'm already calling it right now, Jason. In 4 years, mark my words, it won't be Ron DeSantis as the candidate.
Oh, I think they'll be running Ron DeSantis.
Oh, he'll run, but he will not be the candidate. I don't think.
I don't think he'll win either.
And I do want to say this, Jason. We touched on Thomas Massie. I have gone on record, and I stand by this. If we had a house full of Thomas Massies, that would be the greatest day in American politics. I fully support his ideology, his small government libertarian bent. I am all on board with what Thomas Massie represents. He's wrong in this instance. I think he is letting his ego and his ideology kind of cloud his judgment in this case, that we just need a speaker. We need to support Donald Trump because the American people voted for Donald Trump. We voted for Donald Trump's agenda. And by extension, we, in essence, support Mike Johnson as speaker. If it's good enough for Trump, it's good enough for us right now.
Well, and I think an important thing to understand, and people who've never owned a business or been responsible for a business just don't get this. And that's why we need more successful business-minded people in government, not politicians. Like Todd and I run a business together with our other partners. We do digital marketing. We do content creation. We sit there and we say, here is where we find ourselves today. Here's what we need to do, what we need to get done, how we're going to pay the bills, whatever we're going to do. And there are times where we're like, oh, this sucks. Oh, that sucks. Oh, we can't do that. But at the end of the day, we need to say, what are we going to do to keep our business moving forward? And how are we going to do that? What are we going to do? I'll give a prime example, and I'm going to give a shout out to Todd. We were talking yesterday. Todd does his own podcast Tuesdays and Thursdays called The American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. He does a ton of media debunking. He wanted to talk about some of the crazy stuff, which is where the graphic comes from today, about the horrible event that happened in New Orleans, about the Cybertruck explosion in
detonation.
Tower. And we were talking, and we're like, okay, well, we stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. We just can't stream that episode on several of the platforms, Facebook, YouTube. Sorry, like, you're a definite out. And we don't like that. We didn't. Oh, don't that was not our favorite thing to do. We were left with the choice: do we not talk about it, or do we limit which platforms we talk about it on? And we're going to talk a little bit about it today, but that's a business decision we need to make. Now, we could scream and gnash our teeth and go, "Oh, it's not right. YouTube won't let us do that." But we're businessmen. We just have to make a business decision. Do we want to make the content? If so, we have to accept we can't distribute it on all the platforms. And if not, then don't make the content,
Yeah. And I think it's, again, common sense, practical. I think that's my world. Like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We can do a lot of good things with Mike Johnson as speaker. Again, maybe I'm optimistic, overly optimistic, maybe a little naive, but why are we getting upset about the good? There is no such thing as a perfect House speaker anyways. Thomas Massie would never be elected as House speaker. Jim Jordan, who I think is often all talk, kind of like a Chip Roy, maybe he'd be better, but there's no guarantee and he's never going to get elected. We can't keep fighting for the impossible perfect when we have the good right in front of us.
And I will fact check you, Todd. I don't think Mike Johnson's going to be good.
I don't. Maybe I fine. Let me be wrong and then vacate.
No.
Again.
Good is a very relative term. Let's be realistic, folks. Trump's gains in his first 2 years will not be legislatively in the House.
Also,
you're not going to be passing any laws with the slim House and Senate majorities that we have. You're going to get movements in the executive branch, hopefully in the judicial. He can get some nominees through. You're going to see him leveraging what tools he can to clean up the deep state and the three-letter agencies, that kind of stuff. I have very low expectations for what he can accomplish legislatively. But a lot of things like closing the border, you can do that without legislation, just like Joe Biden opened it without legislation. Now, we hope he gets permanent long-term fixes for the legislation. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, if we can just get the House to quit sending money to Ukraine or funding all these wars, to focus on spending more on the American people, to bring back spending in line. Even the spending, though, I mean, let's be realistic. The country spends $6 trillion and collects $4 trillion in taxes. If you shut off that spending day one, there's going to be economic repercussions. So there's going to be this give and take, over the next few years.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jason. Let me elaborate. I just need someone serviceable, but to your point, yeah, the House and the Senate, I kind of hope they're irrelevant anyways. I want Donald Trump to rule with a pen. He can pass all the executive orders he wants. I think a lot of the stuff he campaigned on, the things that you and I want, can be taken care of with him alone for the most part. Johnson just needs to not get in the way. That's really all I'm looking for. So when I say good, let me qualify that. Just serviceable and not a roadblock, not an impediment to the Trump agenda.
Right. Don't shit the bed, Mike Johnson. Hey, Falley's even in the house.
Falley, the whole gang is here. We got Francis, Falley, Big Bad, K-Gun Girl. Welcome aboard, everybody. It is not a show without the whole family here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, well, we need Kev, too. Kev has
right. Kev is usually here.
He'll be around somewhere. But yeah, Todd, so let's dive in as much as we can into these topics you went into on your yesterday show, because I haven't been podcasting all week. Wayne, we just did a Monday show and we took the week off, and there's so much to talk about, folks. And we are going to need to couch some of our conversation because the platforms we're on. Feel free to enter stuff in the comments or put whatever you'd like on there. But for us streaming on some of these platforms, we need to be careful. And it's funny that let's play the video, because last week we're like, Happy New Year, everybody. We let's have a nice, quiet New Year's. And now we're here 7 days later and oh, baby.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
And that, of course, is referencing the terror attack in New Orleans. It left, I think, by my count, right now, 10 dead, 30 injured, or some of the headlines I saw. I think that probably jumped up.
I think it's up to 15, I read.
15 dead now, okay. And I talked about yesterday the correlations between what happened in Las Vegas, where a Cybertruck seems to have been, I think we can just say that it was, intentionally exploded, detonated. It had gas and fireworks, and it was parked right outside Trump Hotel. So you got the perfect optics, a flamed out Tesla vehicle next to Trump Tower in Las Vegas. I mean, you couldn't have scripted a better image. And there are just so many weird coincidences as we, again, couch our language here. The backgrounds of the two folks that are believed to have been involved were both vets. They had both served at the same base, Fort Bragg. And I know people are like, well, Fort Bragg's big. Everybody cycles through there. But okay, they still were both there. Their backgrounds were in explosives. They both have these weird ties to a foreign country. They both rented from this. It's a rideshare app. It's called Turo. They didn't go through a normal rental car process. It wasn't their own vehicle. They both went through Turo. And Jason, I saw on X yesterday, do you know who's a board member on Turo? Because we couldn't have a full-blown tinfoil conspiracy moment without mentioning that Chelsea Clinton is involved in leadership at that company. So someone was just inserting the Clinton name, like you can't have a conspiracy without the Clintons. It was just very weird how all these dots seem to be lining up to what I will say suggest a connection. Could they have happened in isolation? Sure. Do these things happen? Yes, but not in this country. And then they happened on the same day, New Year's. And again, the individuals involved across the country, you can line them up and say, okay, similar.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to figure out which just strikes me as more odd. So when you have the New Orleans incident, let's say, you have a guy who is an American, served in the military, became radicalized by ISIS, it appears. The initial reports, if you notice, the FBI came out right away. This has nothing to do with the T word. Rhymes with ist. Like, this wasn't an ist attack. And I'm like, huh? There's an ISIS flag on the back of his truck. What are you talking about? And then as they're exploring his things, he worked in intelligence. He somehow became radicalized. But then do you want to play the one video, Todd? Because this blew me away. It's a video making the rounds. 2 days after this happened, the FBI already let reporters go through their house. I mean, check this out.
Investigators hope could lead to answers in an unsolved mystery in Washington.
I don't think that's the right video.
Oh, no, that's the pipe bomb one.
Pipe bomb. Did you share? We're live, folks. Did you share that video, Jason?
I thought I did. Hang on. We'll find it.
Yeah, I wanted to get to how the news covered it as well. So there was a tweet. It got 8 million views from a left-wing account. And it was a photograph. I think I have this photograph from my show yesterday. Let me pop this up.
Oh, hey, I found the video.
Oh, this one. Okay.
New Orleans terrace home. You can see that it's been clearly.
Okay, so this is a news reporter 2 days after they identified this guy's house. Just watch this.
They destroyed the door, at least from the FBI raid yesterday. But if we walk through the home, we see some signs of what he was up to. He had this work area here, lots of different chemicals splayed around, and different electronics. This is, again, a work setup. Left receipts, just very unkempt in here. If we go over here, actually, you can see the Department of Justice documents here, the search warrant, and the property that they recorded here, which seems to be a lot of chemicals. Again, just left in disarray. There's a bedroom back here, and his, what appears to be his collection of religious materials, his Qurans, an open Quran with a passage there, as well as even the Bible here, but mostly books on Islam, and his prayer rug just to the left of me here. And if we go back, there's another bedroom here. You can see he left all these belongings, contact lenses, personal belongings, his bathroom. This seems to be some sort of workspace, again, with other chemicals here. The light's still on, some kind of station set up here. We're not really sure what that was for. In, what we can assume was also a bedroom. You can see clothes left here, and just a sign that someone was here up until those last few moments when neighbors said he left just before the New Year's holiday, saying he was done with his lease, it was up, and he was on his way to New Orleans. where he would live there. Didn't take any furniture because he said his new home would be furnished. That's all we know so far.
Well, that's a head scratcher.
So let me get this straight. So you have somebody who served in the military, who drove across the border to rent a vehicle. They loaded up with explosives, personal explosive devices. Guy, they haven't even used the old, oh, we were keeping an eye on him. The FBI always uses that line. They didn't know anything about this guy, they're saying. He was flying under the radar. He drives into New Orleans, on New Year's celebration, plows over a bunch of people, hops out, shoots people. He's got some sort of connection or love for ISIS, all this stuff. And a reporter is able to walk up to his house within like 48 to 72 hours. This was aired. I forget the channel that it was on, but it was a local news channel that ran this. Like, the building's not like, wouldn't that be secured? Wouldn't all that stuff be in Ziploc bags? Like, I've watched CSI, right? And I am no expert on any of this, but for none of that to be secured, the whole place isn't fingerprinted. There's still electronic devices. Shouldn't those be scoured? What in the heck? This makes no sense.
Well, yeah, journalists even got to the scene before the FBI did, but you don't want to look for prints for co-conspirators. You don't want to trace any of this back to anywhere else. You're just going to let the entire scene get contaminated. Like, this is not how investigations go. Did we have any reporters in the home of Thomas Crooks's parents? Have we ever had any reporters in any other home of someone that commits an act like this?
Right. Yeah, Thomas Crooks, we don't know anything about. Like, they haven't released nothing. And like Big Bad in the comments says they kicked in the front door. Like, literally, I mean, unless the reporter staged this, which I'm not beyond saying that happened, but you walk up, it's unsecured. There's even police tape on it. Are you kidding me? And now you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. You really don't. But the FBI already lied to you like 5 times about this New Orleans thing. And now you got the media in there. None of this makes any sense. So
well, Jason, can I add this as well? So again, here's another wrinkle. So this person then allegedly lived at an Airbnb that was rented out right here. And wouldn't you know that a fire broke out in that residence right after this happened?
Right. Yeah. And they said minimal things were destroyed in the fire. And here's what's amazing. What's amazing about all this. So this guy in particular, Donald Trump threw out a tweet where he was talking about illegal immigrants and we need to stop, in reference to this guy. And fact check, this guy was not an illegal immigrant. He was a U.S. citizen. The leftists and the media all went in this, Donald Trump lying. He's trying to infuriate people because they're saying it's an immigrant. Clearly, ISIS got to this guy somehow. He didn't act alone. There is some connection. I'm assuming there were people that communicated with him that crossed the border illegally, even though he was an American citizen. Like, the whole thing stinks. We are not making any, for the YouTube, Facebook censors especially, we are not making any declarative statements of what we think happened. We're just pointing out, this is really weird. This is why you don't trust the government. This is why you don't trust the media, because they're lying to you. And everybody, and that's where we got to watch on the America First side, where we like to speculate, well, I think this or that or the other thing. We try not to do that here, because then that's when they fact check you and say, oh, no, you're wrong. Or we've covered, that's how they debunked Pizzagate, for example. Like, they said, oh, no, it wasn't Cosmic Pizza. And they're like, okay, well, what about the elite pedophile ring they talk about? And like, oh, well, no, we already debunked the whole Pizzagate thing. So it wasn't Cosmic Pizza. It's like, yeah, we weren't really talking about that. We were talking about the elite pedophile ring. And, oh, yeah, we debunked that. But that's what they do. So, folks, if you're looking at this stuff and saying, how did this guy fly under the radar? How did this happen? And this was the icing on the cake when I saw this yesterday. How the F does a news reporter get in an unsecured building with all the guy's crap there? Todd, make it make sense.
Yeah, and not just any news reporter. Like, what outlet is she from? This isn't like CNN walked in or Fox News. Like, I dare say just some independent journalist, some young gal is like, hey, I got a camera, I got a crew. Thanks for letting me into this apartment.
Right.
Yeah, I like Big Bad's comment. Scared to enter because she knew she shouldn't be able to get in, but she could. Why wasn't it cordoned off? Hey, how do you explain that? How was it not cordoned off? And what is the explanation for no cordon?
Right.
But
well,
then
and
another
Valley,
thing
because they're keeping us
Jason,
busy while they pull more attacks. They are attacks. Valley is 100% right.
100%.
And here's why, when we're talking about this Johnson thing, to bring it back to where we started the show, we need Johnson to get done. We need Kash Patel to get put in place. We need him to expose what the heck happened. Why do we have journalists walking into this guy's house, the FBI lying about what's happening, and we know nothing about the Trump assassin? Like, why? Like, the American people need transparency. It is insane.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen really fast again, just to kind of highlight how some people want to cover this. This account is not necessarily what he's the one that wrote it. This account is insane. He's got some big following over on X, but they want to frame it up here. This guy writes, the person was American, raised in Texas, Army vet. Who am I supposed to hate? Like, you could not distract the issue more than writing something like this. Like, to Jason's point, he always talks about how they take a kernel of truth and then run with the rest of the lie. Like, yes, all of those things are true, and it misses the entire point. But that's what people are talking about now, too. They're trying to change the direction, change the narrative.
And this just in for Alex Cole. You know who you hate? ISIS. You hate them with a passion and fury like you've never hated anybody. You hate the FBI, CIA, Clintons, the Obamas who helped, or even the Bushes who helped start and support ISIS, who was able to come over and brainwash this poor American into doing a horrible act against other Americans. Hate ISIS. Hate that we support them. Hate that we participated in that. That's who you hate. Brr.
So I'm going to segue over to New Orleans, Jason. I don't think we wanted to spend a lot of time on that. Happy to do that because I talked for an hour yesterday on just this issue. This is another way the media was trying to frame this up. Again, this was from a much larger, more prominent account. Like I said, 8 million, it might be 9 million views now. But they took that perfect image from Las Vegas. Again, the same day. Was it related? We talked about how a lot of dots got connected there. A lot of things seemed to line up for these two folks. But you got the Tesla representing Elon Musk. You've got Trump Tower representing incoming President Donald Trump. And this person was like, what a real photo and perfect metaphor heading into 2025. Bodies weren't even cold. We didn't even know anything. This car was intentionally detonated. And they would have you believe that, oh, this Tesla just caught fire and exploded. And it just happened to be outside of Trump Tower. Like, this was a scripted event. And the fact that they're using this photograph kind of proves that point.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Big Bad sent me, I'll retweet it on there. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know if we can play it on some of these platforms. It was from Concerned Citizen talking about the PSYOPs. Thanks for that, Big Bad. But yeah, so let's get to this one and break this down. So this guy, and feel free to fact check me, Todd, he was an Army Ranger?
That's what it looks like. Yep. And so we don't have
Allegedly.
a picture of him, but full disclosure, I mean, white guy. And so now people are like, oh, white guy here. And I got to go back to this point too, Jason. The FBI said they weren't going to release the identity of the individual in New Orleans because they had to make sure they could pronounce his name correctly.
And isn't it funny too? And you hate to be like that, but every time when they put the headlines out like car plows into crowd or whatnot, it's like, okay, what? Is it Islamic? Is it a trans person again? You know, but if it's a white dude, like they got
his name right away. It was a white guy. Yeah. Right. So Army background, explosives background, Fort Bragg background we talked about. Interestingly, they found a gunshot wound in his head. And I don't know about you, Jason, but he's not surviving that explosion and then finishing himself off later. So then you got all sorts of other questions circulating like, okay, then, was there a timer on it? Was there a remote detonator on it? Did someone else pull the trigger and then it drove it to that site? Because again, it's a perfectly scripted picture, not an accident that it parked outside right there. Like the coordination of this is far more than just some deranged individual alone. Like there was much more to it.
Yeah, I got to say, just to walk through the whole story for those who didn't watch your episode. So the dude that did it is an Army, like Green Beret, some special forces with heavy explosives training. He recently, it sounds like him and his wife were separating. He was texting his ex-wife talking about, hey, I'm renting this cyber truck. How cool is it? This has all been released within 24 hours. So we know more about this guy than we do the Trump assassin, just so you know. The 18-year-old who mysteriously was able to nearly assassinate President Trump. We know more about this guy in 24 hours. And we know more about this guy than we do the New Orleans guy that they've given up searching his house already. Okay, so just to see how this works. So this dude was a white guy, Trump supporter, it sounds like, pro-America first. And the explosive device he made, they're describing it as it was more like sound and fury than actually intended to cause damage. So there were like fireworks packed on top of the explosive devices. And for those who don't know, Cybertrucks are built like freaking tanks. So you got an explosives expert who packs these explosives in a tank that, other than making a big boom and looking impressive, is going to accomplish nothing but killing him. And like Todd said, it comes out now the guy was shot in the head with and I saw the make and model of the gun online, but it was like a 50 caliber.
Yeah, it was a long barrel.
Yeah. And it sounds like the military guys weighing in on it are like, yeah, nobody who ever served in special ops would use that gun. And I'm not a huge gun guy, so I don't know exactly what it was. But it's like, okay, this is really odd that he would pick that weapon that many people don't like, evidently, in the special forces. And then it's funny, Todd made reference to a Clinton thing. Like, how many Clinton people like committed suicide with 2 shotgun shells to the back of their head before they hung themselves? So, and then this one, Tesla, like the Cybertruck could have driven itself. He could have shot himself ahead of time. But there's probably it was a 50 caliber
pistol. Fair enough. That's why we have a smart audience. Thank you for check there, Big Bad.
Yeah, and I mean, as you just look at the whole thing, I'm sitting here like, this story reeks. Like, and what Trump supporter like went through all the hell we went through to get president? You lived through all the stuff, all the hatred, all the family ostracization. Todd and I, as business people, we've had our business attacked. We had a 1 million follower Facebook page get deactivated for a year so we could make no money on President Trump is my wingman. We battled through all that. And this guy's going to off himself a couple of weeks before inauguration. Like, none of this adds up.
And then throw in the connections back to New Orleans, and you think, okay, I don't even know if this is isolated. Yeah, we have so many questions on it. I love the comments on X2. That's how I feel. And we're supposed to just trust the FBI is going to investigate this and let us know all the information about all of this. Like, and we're going to just trust the FBI and their report.
Right. And you know, it's funny because, you know, we talk about it a lot on the show. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to recognize a pattern that just looks insane. And I remember for me, like back in 9/11, that was one of those seminal moments of my youth when 9/11 happened. I was a young man. And I remember just looking at what went down, and I'm like, they really expect us to believe this story? And like, I have no idea what happened 9/11. I have no idea who or what, but I just know the story they gave me just didn't add up. And it's like, if you look back, can you imagine being alive in JFK's time and you see the JFK assassination and you just look at these fact patterns and say, this doesn't even make sense. This is insane.
Yeah, Big Bad is referencing tons injured in a fireworks accident over in Hawaii. I just had to Google that too while you were speaking there, Jason. So these pictures are pretty awful. I don't think I'm going to show them up, but quite a large explosion from fireworks in Hawaii. I hadn't heard about that story. I would believe that idiots set off fireworks on New Year's Eve, though, and have bad things happen to them.
Right. Yeah, and K-Gun Girl, this story stinks. Valley smells like rotten fish. That's what I'm saying, folks. And part of why Todd and I started this podcast, part of why we call it Freedom from the Press, is we like communicating with just critical thinkers. We don't have all the answers. I don't know what the hell happened in these two events. Neither does Todd, neither do you. But what do we know? Nobody trusts the FBI. Like, we know they're going to lie to us. We know the media is going to lie to us. And together, hopefully, we can find out truth. Hopefully, we can support President Trump. Back to the Speaker Johnson thing. I need Johnson in that job so we can get Kash Patel starting day one. And day one, I hope he has a stack of files up to the ceiling of like, we're going to release it all, guys. We're just going to release it all. It's, we need to do that as a country so we can start restoring some trust in these institutions.
Yeah, I will say, Jason, there's a lot on the line for the Trump administration. We've had lots of promises to release that information. I feel like they have to follow through on that. We need the lists. We need some of the background on information that we're missing. What are your thoughts if Donald Trump doesn't deliver on that?
Well, I got to say, this is one of my fears with President Trump is that in term one, if you look at what he got done overall, he fell short. And that is fair criticism. And you can say he fell short because legislatively he went in thinking the Republican Party was on his side. I'm going to do think about the wall. Like, literally, you get a member of the House or Senate farting and they give out $20 billion, right? I mean, the amount of money it would have taken to build a wall is a rounding error on any of these bills they're putting out. And the fact that they didn't just put through a single issue spending bill, let's build the wall, is criminal. And it shows just how corrupt the Republican Party is. And that's why we say we are not Republicans. Like, Mitch McConnell is no better than Chuck Schumer, right? We are America First. That's why we're part of MAGA and part of that movement. But, Trump does have the power to do things. And I can understand why in his first term he might not have, because it's going to cause a lot of issues and it might make it more difficult to get reelected or that sort of thing. Some of these file releases, I think in his first term, like whatever deep state agent sat down in his office and goes, sure, you can release the Epstein files. You know who's on there, right? You know what happened to Epstein and everybody else, right? Like, yeah, go ahead. This time after trying to kill the guy, I think Trump's going to be like, I can release the Epstein files. I think that whole "they nearly killed me" thing, is going to be a seminal moment for him.
Yeah, and he has nothing else to lose, and just lose. Culturally speaking, too, maybe Americans weren't ready in 2016. We said, yeah, release the list. I don't think we fully understood what that meant. And now we've lived through his administration. We saw what the media and the elites and the establishment did to him. We've lived through the Biden administration. Where Americans are just 8 years later, 8 short years, I think we're all at the point, yeah, we need to know, let us know, let the chips fall where they may. We voted against Hillary Clinton. We took a flyer with Donald Trump in 2016. And this time around, there's no mess around. It is Trump versus the establishment. It is the American people versus the establishment. We just got to know this information.
Yeah. And I think, like I say, one of the important things to understand is that Trump had a chance to bow out gracefully, right? After 2020, even if he was going to just run on pride in 2024, he had a chance to bow out and he didn't. And then they tried to kill him once. And then there was a second guy trying to kill him. And they have gone after his business. They've tried to lock him up in jail for a couple hundred years. This man has not backed down. And I'm pretty confident that he is not going to back down and he's going to go into his second term and he's actually going to release his stuff. So,
yeah, you do have to ask the question, why did you come back? Either he ran just to stay out of prison. He's like, I have to win, otherwise I'm going to go to prison. Or you could take another view and just say, he came back to do the right thing. He didn't have to run again. There's no reason to. He already became president. He's a billionaire. He doesn't need this necessarily anymore for himself. And it's only 4 short years. So are you really just doing it to be president again for your ego, or are you doing it for the right reasons? I'd like to think he's doing it because he's got the FU mindset now. Like, nope, you guys lied about me. You tried to kill me. It's payback time. And I'm going to release all the information. I'm going to wake up the American people to this, and we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah. And Falley actually hit the nail on the head. And this actually is kind of a fun point to explore. He spent his first term surviving all the BS lies, Russia hoax, impeachment for anything and everything. He's lucky he got done what he did. That is 100% true. And you know who supported those things was the Republican Party. Like, the Democrats came after him, and the Democrats fight dirty. Like, that's 100% true. But the Republicans had the majorities in the House and Senate. The Republicans did not need to give air to any of this. Go back and read Kash Patel's book, Government Gangsters. Go back and look at what Devin Nunes exposed with the Russiagate hoax. Republicans had all that information. Republicans could have said, like, y'all are lying about this Russia stuff. Screw off. We're moving on. And I think hopefully that's going to happen this time.
Here's hoping, Jason. It has to happen. It has to happen. This might be our last shot.
Right. Now,
All
Todd,
right, we've got to talk about pipe bombs.
yeah, I was going to say, do we go to that next video?
I think we do, because, folks, in 13 minutes, we're going to check out C-SPAN's live coverage of hopefully the House electing Mike Johnson today. There's my bias again, but the 11 o'clock Eastern is when they're going to start the proceedings. I don't know how much of it is just going to be formalities of them walking in one by one, but we are going to check it out live at 11. So coming up in 13 minutes, but we do want to talk about some new revelations related to the J6 pipe bomber. It has been 4 years, Jason, 4 years since we discovered the existence of these pipe bombs. We have video of a dude walking around. We have all the surveillance footage. Let me just share a screen of Julie Kelly's summation of this.
Yeah, we should read that. That was phenomenal.
So here's Julie Kelly to kind of frame this up as well. She writes, so we are supposed to believe that after accumulating 105 million data points, let me repeat that, 105 million data points, receiving 500 tips, interviewing 1,000 individuals, viewing 40,000 video files, tasking at least 50 agents and investigators, using extensive investigative resources, including geofence and other cell phone tracking methods, having persons, vehicles of interest, and even tracking down purchases related to what the suspect wore and used in the explosives, the FBI still can't find the pipe bomber.
Now, we should play that one video, that the Breaking 9/11 one. So how this came up, the FBI re-released video of the January 6th pipe bombers asking for the citizens' help in locating the pipe bomber. So that's what Julie Kelly's responding to. Like, and Julie Kelly, great follow on X. You know, she's a great listen. She does all the legal stuff, digs into all of these things. And she she breaks it down where she goes through like all the legalese. So she knows what investigations have been opened. She does a great job of outlining it. But yeah, play that Breaking 9/11 clip. So this is a clip the FBI releases of guy walking up.
Can I just say too, Jason, as you're watching the video, I'm going to play it over. It's a shorter video, but I'm going to start over. How is it that security cameras in the Capitol vicinity are these like second by second frames? How do you not have color and instantaneous feedback? Like, why are we watching black and white choppy movements of this dude walking? Like, beyond me, these surveillance cameras.
Well, and I've got to say, I haven't been to Washington, D.C. for a good decade. So I imagine it's only gotten stronger. But when I was in Washington, D.C., especially these areas that they're talking about, every square inch of that was under constant video surveillance. Right. It reminds me of the plane hitting the Pentagon on 9/11, how you have the most secure building in the world, that you have one choppy camera angle of
from a gas station, I think it was, or no, maybe it was the gate where you enter. Yeah,
it was the guard station. They had a camera. That was the only camera that we had going. Weird, isn't it, guys? So on this one, you have Washington, D.C., every business, every property, like every square inch of D.C. is under surveillance all the time. And it's funny because I used to work retail, and like when I go in stores, I'd like look to see like where their cameras were and stuff. And it's amazing the amount of surveillance when you kind of know what you're looking for. In DC, it was just as bad. And I'm untrained. Like, I'm not a surveillance expert. But when I can walk down and go like, oh, there's a camera there and there and there and there, and there's a camera on on the streets for traffic. And like, you could 100% locate every square inch that this person has gone in Washington, D.C. for the entire time. I mean, it's crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah, same thing. I'm just going to say this point too. I was in public education, government school system as an assistant principal. We had better security cameras than this. And I would look at the security cameras to figure out, okay, what happened to student A? There was a fight or whatever. We're trying to find a kid. Like, we didn't have the best equipment, and it was better than this. Just to your point about DC, probably one of the most surveilled cities in America. And as Big Bad writes, the cheesiest cameras are in color these days. Yeah.
I install them, I would know. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I can't get my camera for the podcast to work very well, but like, I'm not an expert on it. And like, this is the only video you've got, or these couple videos like that. And once again, why on earth? So after 4 years, they've been able to track down like 3,000 people that were in the Capitol that day. They were able to track down grandma in the middle of nowhere in the backwoods of Kentucky and drag her to court. And you're telling us this person, you got nothing after 4 years? Really? So there's one of two things. Either you're incompetent or you're corrupt. There is no third option. Like, and the thing I ask myself is, why on earth is the FBI releasing this like the week before the inauguration?
Yeah, and I will just say, Jason, you're asking the question: competence, incompetence, or corruption? They were very competent. They can be very competent when it comes to fulfilling certain duties. So to tell me that they're really good at tracking down all those J6 folks, but then not so good at tracking this guy down who planted a pipe bomb, selective competence or corruption? Like, corruption. I'm just going to say it. It's corruption.
Right. And if you think about that, I mean, I know it's a different branch of government and security, but it's like the Secret Service. How did they let the Trump assassin on the roof? Like, they really want to tell you that, we don't know how that happened. Are you kidding me?
We're not going to fire until he fires first, Jason.
Right. Yeah. It's the craziest thing ever that they expect you to believe this. So once again, tying this back to the speakership, you know what? I think it's all the H1 people working this game.
The best of the best, Big Bad. It's only the best of the best.
And we got to talk H1 too before we get to the speaker thing, because I wanted to explore what we were talking about in the chat earlier. But so my point is, Trump, when we look at legislatively what he's going to get through the House, folks, set your expectations low, right? Like, they're not going to get through everything you want. Trump, though, has 100% ability and authority to blow this crap up, to say, who knows what, let's fire him, let's release the information. Was it incompetence or a corruption? You know, what was it? He has 100% the ability to do this. And that's what I hope he does on day one. And that's why I'm not getting my undies in a bunch about the speakers thing. Like, who are we going to fight for? You know, we're going to spend, I don't want to waste a second on the speaker. Just get Johnson in there. Let's inaugurate Trump. Let's move forward. And then let's figure out what the heck's going on here. Why is the FBI releasing this now? Like, all of it. Every American should want to know all of it.
Yeah, and I can't help but think it's a coordinated diversionary tactic. When we voted for Donald Trump in November, we weren't thinking about who the speaker would be. We weren't thinking about the H-1B issue. We were thinking about big picture. How do you save this country? Stop the border. Stop sending money overseas. He's going to release the J6ers. I love that he's talking about birthright citizenship. There's lots of things Donald Trump can do. The speaker vote, low on the list. It was on nobody's mind in November. That's not why we elected Donald Trump. This is not the focal point. We need to get back to business.
Yeah, and that's why we talked a lot about the H-1B visas on last week's episode. And Todd and I both think conceptually H-1B visas are good, where you attract top talent from other countries. Like, we can all say, yeah, that's cool. We like that kind of immigration. Unfortunately, the program, as the laws are written, do not accomplish that stated goal. The stated goal it does is it brings in immigrants from crappy countries and locks them in like indentured servants for 3 to 6 years, working for large corporations for less than market wages, suppressing wages of Americans. in order to bring them in. The corporations love it. They get cheap workers. The workers can't quit, because if you're on an H-1B visa and you quit, like, you get sent back to your crappy country. So these workers are like, okay, do I take a 3-year indentured servitude job with Della White and do accounting for 80 hours a week? But hey, at least I got running water and air conditioning and I got an Xbox, or do I go back to India and like live in poor living conditions, shall we say? But anyways, like, everybody wants to talk about that and get into that. Like, once okay, here's H-1B visa. It's kind of nice. We explored it. We understand it. Let's move on. Like, that's not whatever. If Trump doesn't touch H-1B visas, I don't really care.
Yeah, I hate to go backwards, but I'm going to do it anyways. I was just on Julie Kelly's timeline. So she just posted this. So we're all seeing it at the same time. She just wanted to make the point that this is the video, the one I'm about to play, was the one that was released 4 years ago. We'll just play it here. So this is what the public had access to. And then amazingly, they released the other one that we just saw. And again, just to make the point, why did they sit on that other one? What did we learn? What did we see that was new? Like, why did they only release one camera angle when they had another one right there for the public as well? And it just seems like a coordinated drip. Don't give them too much information.
And then if you look at a map of where this is, and you think about how many camera angles they have of this person walking in and out of that
Correct.
area, I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. God, doesn't it just make you mad, Todd?
That thing was there for 18 hours. 18 hours. They can see through all the different angles. He is setting something down. Again, incompetence. They just missed it when they were reviewing the area, or straight up corruption.
Right. Oh.
Do you want to play this clip here of them talking about it too? And then we'll...
Yeah, go for it.
Tonight's Whatever Happened To segment, we look at what we know and do not know about who placed pipe bombs near the offices of the Republican and Democratic National Committees in 2021. Correspondent David Spunt visited the scene of the crime.
This previously unreleased footage shows the suspect sitting on the DNC bench.
The FBI out with a new video of a masked suspect planting a pipe bomb near a bench outside the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington on January 5th, 2021, the night before the attack on the Capitol. The suspect then placed the same type of bomb outside the Republican National Committee minutes later.
The device was placed just up here in this corner against the wooden fence and against the brick wall here.
FBI Assistant Director David Sundberg, who oversees the Washington, D.C. field office, met Fox News at the site of the RNC bomb. The suspect wore a face mask, a hooded sweatshirt.
Oh, they do have better cameras. Okay.
Glasses and gloves. Sundberg says 4 years later, still no name, but agents know now the person's height, 5'7". The Bureau also out with this new animation of the shoe the FBI says was worn by the suspect, Nike Air Max Speed Turf. Agents say the two bombs were placed between 7:30 and 8:30 at night on January 5th, 2021. The bombs did not detonate but were viable and discovered the next day. Over the past 4 years, agents visited 1,200 homes and businesses, conducted more than 1,000 interviews, and reviewed approximately 39,000 video files. They also went through more than 600 tips. Still, no suspect.
So I have two comments, Jason. I'll let you dive in as well. They never exploded. So again, incompetence, you don't know how to build a bomb, or did you never intend for it to go off? Like, there's a whole set of questions as well. But number two, back to surveillance. In my mind, this is what I would do in schools all the time since we had cameras throughout the building. I would see a kid walking in one camera. I would jump over to the next camera to see him continue walking down the hallway, and I would track the student back to where maybe a fight had broken out. So I could trace him back using different cameras throughout the building. How is it? So I see all these cameras right here. I see a clip of him walking to the bench, leaving the bench. He's in this neighborhood, apparently. He's walking around DC. But you're telling me that you can't go backwards in time with all the different cameras to see where did this originate from? Where did he go after he disposed of the bomb? I can't say this is incompetence. I know you have cameras that can track this guy forwards and backwards.
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned I used to work retail. And when you do loss prevention, Like, just so you know, from most stores you go into, like from the moment you pull up in, if it's a big retailer, from the moment you pull up in the parking lot, you're on some sort of camera. Now, these aren't as sophisticated. You have to do some, like, it's not necessarily zoomed in on you, but like your Walmart parking lot, they got 3-4 cameras out there, right? Your Target or Kohl's or whatnot. You know, inside, there's cameras that are panning every square inch of the store. And you can literally set up a traffic pattern of most people from the time they pull onto your property to where they go in the retail store and out. Washington, D.C. should be no different. Like, I should be able to track where this guy or girl goes for the next hour after they leave those. I should be able to tell what roads they go on. Do they hop on a subway or a bus? You know, is there, and buses even have cameras in D.C. You know, I mean, everything is surveilled. So you should be able to track, like, okay, you know, that restaurant has a camera outside or that retail store has a camera outside. And you should be able to trace every square inch of where this person was. But once again, the bigger question of this, is it incompetence? Is it intentional? And I'll just say, with everything going on, you know, between the New Orleans thing, between now the weird thing of at the Trump Towers with the Cybertruck, now this, a lot of distraction is happening. And there's a lot of these, I mean, they're false flaggy feeling, just a lot of weird stuff happening. And I think it's to distract us from Donald Trump doing what he wants to do. Close the border, deport the illegals, you know, let's start releasing records, you know, and as American people, we can't let ourselves get distracted. Just like the speaker race. I've now said it 800 times in this episode. Elect Johnson, move on. Like, let's not get distracted with a 3-week battle over who's going to be Speaker of the House, who's not going to be able to pass any legislation. Arr.
Fired up here. Yeah. Speaking of speaker votes, it is live on C-SPAN. Right now, they're going to do a quorum call. And then up ahead is the speaker election here. So why don't we jump into that? MTG, who was at the forefront of ousting McCarthy, very outspoken against Johnson as well, didn't vote for him for a long time. She has now thrown her weight, her one vote behind Speaker Johnson. That kind of leads me to believe that she's getting in line. Others are getting in line. I think Johnson's going to win on the first ballot. Let's listen to what she has to say. And then we have Steve Bannon on the other end saying why he doesn't want Johnson. So the folks are divided out there. There's lots of different opinions. Jason and I have weighed in, but let's take a listen to MTG.
We convene at noon in the House of Representatives, and our first order of business will be to vote for Speaker of the House. This is a historic vote, and it is the first order of business that we have to accomplish before we can even swear in as members of Congress. Now, here's how I feel about it. You all have seen me disagree with Mike Johnson at times. You've seen me fight against him at times. But you want to know something else? Here's what I recognize. For the past 4 years, all of you, and myself included, have put blood, sweat, and tears into electing President Trump. And when you want to talk about blood, President Trump himself actually was the one that shed blood after an assassin shot him in the face. Here's what I know. All of you are sick and tired and fed up out of the drama and all of the garbage that comes out of Washington, D.C. And after 2 terrorist attacks on our nation where innocent people were killed, and after 4 years of unbelievably horrific government policies, and now that we're in $36 trillion in debt, all of you at home, and myself included, are ready for the drama to end. Well, here's what I'm asking my colleagues to do. Let's put aside our pride, let's put aside our egos, and let's put aside the infighting. It's time to come together as Republicans, and it's time to do whatever it takes to make sure that we deliver the mandate that the American people told us to do. And that's why I'm excited tomorrow. I cannot wait to get started. I'll be voting for Mike Johnson. I will be looking ahead in complete hopefulness and working as hard as possible. You see, we're going to elect a speaker, and then we're going to swear in as members of Congress. And then on Monday, we're going to certify the most historic election in our nation's history when we certify Donald John Trump's election as 47th President of the United States. We're going to spend a few weeks getting to work, working hard on preparing for his agenda. And then on January 20th, We're going to inaugurate Donald John Trump as the 47th president of the United States. Now, it's 18 long days until we get to that important day. And while all of us are praying and many of us are scared after what we've seen, and many of us are unsure if we'll be even able to get there and see President Trump go back in the White House, I'm going to tell you this. I'm giving it my all, and I can't wait to get started tomorrow. All right.
She touched on something that I had meant to bring up earlier, but she used the word ego. Set aside your ego and vote for Mike Johnson. I do think that's a big part of it. This is not about you, in this case, Thomas Massey, Chip Roy, other people that are making a lot of noise. It's about the America First movement. It's about the mandate given to Donald Trump. Okay, we're not Kool-Aid drinkers. We're not sitting here blindly supporting Donald Trump, everything he has said and done or will do. But in this one instance, the people, I'll just posit this, the ones like the Masseys and the Roys that are going out of their way to vote no on Mike Johnson, I think a lot of it is ego as well. They know better than the American people. They know better than Donald Trump, who won the mandate from the American people. It is all about them.
Well, and I wonder why Doris had a pretty good comment here. I like Johnson. He's not afraid to say what it is. Very concise language without politician gobbledygook. Doris, I respect that opinion, and thank you so much for tuning into the show. But I want to just open your mind to a different way of thinking. And this is especially important for Republicans that kind of got stamped out a bit with President Trump when he came to power. Johnson is a classical Republican politician. Same with Chip Roy. Same with Jim Jordan, to be fair. I love Jim Jordan. He gives a hell of a speech. He rolls up his sleeves like I do, and he smashes his hand on the desk, and we're going to have an investigation. What have the outcomes of anything Jim Jordan's done been legislatively? Has he has one person been arrested? Has one person been kicked out of Congress? Has any of that happened? No. Chip Roy, same thing. All sound and fury. He gives a really great speech, but he never gets anything done. Speaker Johnson, if pre-Speaker of the House, actually had a really good voting record. Like his voting records, when he actually did stuff, he followed a conservative agenda. His communication style, I think, is very effective. I think he's a good communicator, and I like how he talks to me like I'm just a citizen. Like, you know, he's a little more uptight than I am, but I could see sitting down at the sandwich counter just shooting the breeze with him. Legislatively, he's been an abject failure. Like, he has he should have just let the government shut down. You know, like, hey, guys, we're not going to get this budget deal. How many trillions has he sent to Ukraine, or billions has he sent to Ukraine? Like, he's funded all the Joe Biden agenda stuff, and he did it all without concessions. You know, it's kind of like this. The debt ceiling. People forget part of why McCarthy got kicked out of office was the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is the credit limit. So how much the government can accumulate in debt. What really got McCarthy kicked out was he gave Joe Biden an unlimited debt ceiling for his entire term. The debt ceiling goes back in place right now. Like, we are right in the window where the debt ceiling retakes effect. So for the entire Biden legacy or entire Biden term, he gave up the fact they could run up as much debt as they wanted. What did he get in return for that? Zero. Because of that, McCarthy got kicked out. Like, they're like, this is just too much. You gave him a blank check for nothing. And Johnson has done much the same, where Johnson has continued to let the Biden, he could have shut down different funding. He could have done a number of different things. And the fact of the matter is, he didn't do those things, and he got no concessions for it. There was no, it's supposed to be negotiation, tit for tat kind of thing, right? Oh, you want this? Okay, well, we'll give you that, but then give me this. He got nothing for it. So Johnson, if you look at his job performance, if you're an NFL coach, his team is 3-13, maybe 4-12. They had a losing record. He's a nice guy. You want to like him, gives a great speech, but he didn't accomplish anything. Did I miss it, Todd? Am I wrong?
He failed. And you know what? I was just pulling up the numbers to be concise. Let's go back a year. George Santos gets expelled from the House of Representatives. The Republicans already had a slim majority, and the vote was 311 to 114. Where was the whipping? Where was the caucusing to wrap around Republicans and preserve your majority? And then at the same time that was taking place, you saw Kevin McCarthy just be like, okay, I'm done. And he resigned. We had this just absolutely MIC corrupt guy out of Wisconsin, I think it was. He resigned. Like, Republicans lost 3 or 4 members. And then the Santos seat flipped in the special election. Johnson did nothing to preserve an already slim majority on top of everything you just mentioned, Jason. Absolute disaster. No one is defending Johnson's record. It has been terrible. Maybe worse than what McCarthy did, to your point. But that was then. This is now. And we have to strategically plan ahead. How do we make sure that there is a Republican House Speaker? How do we get Trump's agenda to start going?
Right. Oh, man. Does C-SPAN have anything pulled up on there yet?
Yeah, this dude is talking. I muted him, so I don't know what he's saying. He just gavelled. Here, let's head over there and see what's going on C-SPAN.
See, this is what's fun when you do shows live, because I'm over here pulling up the Twitter and saying like, okay, what's the vote going to be? Tom Massey's giving out debt badges. That's pretty exciting.
Would you pray with me?
Oh, hey, we got a little prayer.
Gather us together, sovereign God, from the north and south, from the east and west, from the right and the left, and in your mercy, consecrate the work you have called us to do in this 119th Congress. As we convene to establish and uphold the laws of this nation, may we devote our hearts anew to you and stretch out our hands to receive your instruction. With our spirits oriented toward you, may we be willing to put away all selfish motives, any rancorous thought that may harbor within us, and the sin that we too often cling to, and allow no evil or wickedness to gain a foothold in or penetrate this tent of governance. On this day, in the days and months and years ahead, may we be found to be free of fault and true of faith and allegiance when we lift up our faces to you. May we, without fear or reservation nor purpose of evasion, stand blameless before you and the people we serve. We ask this and pray your blessing on this Congress and on these United States. In the strength of your divine name we pray. Amen.
The representatives-elect and their guests will please remain standing and join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance just to make a comment. Jason, I am astounded. I understand the Pledge of Allegiance. I love that they're praying there. I got to admit, I am surprised every time I hear that. Like, Democrats are good with open prayer to God in Congress. I'm astounded they get away with it. I love that it's there. I can't believe that it happens. And part of me is also like, okay, all you guys have sold out to lobbyists and corporations, and you're all there, bowed heads, respecting the prayer, and you think, like, I am going to question a lot of their faith.
Yeah, and
go down that route. I just had to say that.
I was going to say, is it time for me to go on my church political rant?
Let's do it. We're still waiting for the House Speaker vote.
We're still waiting for the House Speaker. I think America was founded by a Judeo-Christian mindset. I think people that came here from Europe to conquer this land from the natives, which, make no mistake about it, go over to our Substack, theamericantribune.news. Will has a couple great articles about the natives. I mean, I am Native American. That is my largest heritage, or my largest DNA. I'm sure white guy people can tell. But like, the natives didn't have a great, we showed up, we brought civilization, we built the greatest country in the world, and we did it because of Judeo-Christian values. And like, that's not saying negative, that's just an abject truth. And I love the fact that that's still part of our government. The separation of church and state was never designed to remove God and Judeo-Christian values from our form of governance, and it also wasn't to limit like somebody from practicing another religion. It was just to say our nation is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And like, I'm not going to be apologetic about it. They like to try to put us in a cage where they're like, oh, you believe in the fake sky guy, or or whatnot. And the fact of the matter is, atheists or these pagans, they never built a great country like we built in America. And until you do, like, shut up. Like, go show me the great atheist thing or the pagan civilization that just was in chaos and awfulness. It's like communists. Communists like to come in here and try to judge us. Screw you, communists. Like, capitalism built this country. You know, that was a form of governance that worked. Go show me a great communist country, you know. And for all the people that want to whine about being communist, like, go to China. Like, go fit in there. Have a nice day. Arr.
Yeah. Never apologizing for that.
Right.
All right. Where are we at here? They're doing their pledge. We still have to do a quorum call. I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought government would be efficient. Oh, 11 o'clock to vote for the speaker?
No. Negatory.
All right. Well, we got a Bannon clip here. Let's spice things up a little bit. Let's bring in
a
point of view. Let's say, here's Bannon's reason for not voting for Johnson.
A minute on what's happening on Capitol Hill, because it's confusing, I think, to the average person who does not pay a lot of attention to continuing resolutions or these end-of-year budget wars that always seem to wind up the same way, with them saying, just fund it under the same terms we've been funding it. So in a nutshell, what's happening is we're going to run out of money to fund the government. They tried, including Speaker Johnson, spearheaded an effort to try to continue the existing funding, but with some hikes, like pay hikes for Congress and ongoing funding for some very controversial organizations, but just to sort of kick the can down the road to March. And the Republicans, some 30 of them in the House who never vote for these, who just always say this is so irresponsible. What are we doing? We have enormous debt and deficits. We're not going to support this. Necessitated Speaker Johnson, he would say, reaching out to some Democrats to get approval for this bill. That necessitated all these spending extravaganzas because they won't support it unless they get some of their favorites in there. And the whole thing wound up a very ugly nightmare that was about to be shoved through. And then Vivek and Elon, who are running Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, his extra governmental watchdog on spending, stepped in to say, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And that there was blowback. And then Trump dropped in with another message, which I'll get to in 1 second. Anyway, the whole thing blew up. It all blew up. And now they might have a new deal that's like a very slimmed down version of all this. But for the people at home who are lost already with me, with this back and forth, Steve, what is the bottom line?
Because we hate CRs. Where they weren't fine with it at all. I'm not sure the FEMA money is not around to get our arms around this out of control, but it's what he's got. And he's not going to give it up. Well, look at this fiasco the last 40 hours. Why would you trust a politician and say, look, just let's get into the entitlements, we're going to sort it? No. The people that say that, the politicians say that, don't want to do the hard work and discretionary spending. We have $1.5 trillion of discretionary spending, right? That you have to attack that. You have to start there. You have to start there. And look, I was a naval officer for 8 years. I spent 4 years at sea on a destroyer. My daughter, as you know, is a West Point grad that served in Iraq. We're hawks, but we're not endless war hawks. You got to start with the Defense Department. The Defense Department's budget has to be cut. It just has to. You can't have we have now an NDAA at $900 billion. We can't get it. It's the political will. And hopefully President Trump, he's got Scott Bessent, he's got Russ Vought, he's got a great team. But people that back President Trump and people that are coming to our movement now, particularly working class African Americans and Hispanics, have got to understand that the country needs a reorganization economically and particularly about this federal government, or we're not going to be a republic in another decade. You saw this from the assassination on the street.
The house of cards that cannot be quickly dismantled by anyone. I'll tell you about Birch.
All right, so it was in there somewhere. I forgot, Jason. It was a 10-minute clip or so. Bannon does a lot of talking. I don't know how much substance was in that case, but he was opposed to Mike Johnson. We had some of the clips talking about the CR disaster that took place in late December. And so because Johnson allowed government to spend more of your money unfettered, that was reason enough for him to not support him moving forward, was the gist of that.
Should we explain, too, how this is supposed to work?
Can I just say I was all there for a government shutdown?
Right. Yeah, so just for our audience, while we're waiting for them to host the vote, which we could be here till 2 p.m, how it's supposed to work is by the first Monday of February, the president gives their budget outline to the Congress. Hey, here's kind of what I want for spending. Congress then approves it. They have 30 days, so around March 1st, they're supposed, or March 15th. I'd have to look up the dates, but it's like a month after that, Congress approves the appropriation spending in the 12 buckets. So there's 12 different spending buckets. They approve, okay, this is how much goes in this bucket, and this bucket, and this bucket. And they approve that. And then they have another 30 days. So right about tax day, around April 15th, they're supposed to have the budget set for the year. So they say, okay, in each of the 12 buckets, this is how much we're spending on what programs. That is probably the single biggest issue the House of Representatives is supposed to do. This is the process that's supposed to happen. And the law was passed in 1974, where it was the Budget and Appropriations Act. So really going into March, we should have the budget set for the next fiscal year, and it should be handled. We've done that, I think, once since 1997, I think was the last time we actually did that. So what Steve Bannon's talking about is 100% right. Now, is this going to be the year the Republican Congress actually gets that done? No. So what happens is, in order to keep the government open, they pass subsequent regulation that allows for continuing resolution or omnibus bills. Continuing resolution basically says we just set spending at where things are at now, only we extend that another X amount of time. Think of it like if you're leasing a property, you're going to a month-to-month lease. Terms are all the same. You're just going to extend it. Only they'll do it for like 6 months or however long. And omnibus is the worst, because omnibus just means we take all that work we're supposed to do, we throw it in a bucket with any legislation that we want. We throw that in that same bucket, and then we pass it all together. Nobody has time to review it. It's government at its worst. It's like just they throw everything in there, from spending to administrative things to legislative, and it's like the continuing resolution they were trying to pass in this last time in December, right before Christmas. They were throwing in retarded things like congressional pay raises and different things like that really didn't belong in the House. So
mark the time, 1 hour, 23 minutes in. There it is, Jason. Did you slip the R word in?
Oh, wait. Yeah, I did drop the R word in, didn't I? Todd's wife. I'm sorry. I'm getting better. Usually I drop that in about 45 minutes. I don't.
Yeah, growth. And Jason, I want to give a shout out to Gina Olds. Gina's over on Rumble. We got a new comment, new viewer potentially. Gina, thanks for watching the show. Thanks for commenting here. I mean, yes, they're all hypocrites. They're all part of the Uniparty. Jason and I aren't over here. If you're just joining the show, we said at the top of the hour, we're not here thinking Mike Johnson's going to be excellent and corruption stops and it's going to be wonderful. Like, we have no illusions about what is going to happen in the swamp, but we just don't want this to be a headache. And Jason, we didn't touch on this earlier, but need to make the point. We need to have a speaker elected. We need to get the House sworn in so that we can certify the election results on Monday.
Right.
If we drag this out, then there is no certifying the election. And if you want to go to a 3-week fiasco like we did when Gates got rid of Kevin McCarthy, well, that gets us past January 20th. So we need a speaker to be decided upon for us to certify the votes, just to even get Donald Trump in the White House.
Well, you know what's interesting too is if I saw this video, and I should have grabbed it for the podcast. If this shakes out like it thinks, and I'll have some of the term rounds for succession, right? So if we don't elect Speaker of the House, they don't certify the election on Monday. If the non-certification of the election goes through the 20th, or if they don't pick a Speaker of the House by the 20th, do you know who becomes president?
That is a great trivia question. I don't want to have dead air, but I want to think about this too. Is it somebody in the Senate?
All right, well, folks, put your guess in the chat. So if we don't get a Speaker of the House and they don't certify the election, Trump isn't inaugurated on the 20th, who becomes president of the United States? Fascinating
This
line
is
of succession.
fascinating. Huh. I want to get comments in the chat, but I just want you to tell me.
Okay. We'll let the chat go. They're a little bit behind us anyways. So the first one, it could be Biden or Kamala, but it can't because both are officially out of office. Then it would go down to the Speaker of the House. But who would the Speaker of the House be?
Do they go to Hakeem Jeff? Well, I mean, Mike Johnson is right now.
We won't have a Speaker of the House.
I think we don't as of today, so that doesn't count. So it's the Senate pro tem, right?
Right. And do you know who that is?
Oh no, it's a Democrat.
No, 90-year-old one, Chuck Grassley.
No, get out of here.
No, seriously. I haven't had a chance to look it up, but I saw somebody do the breakdown on it, and I kind of knew the plan of succession. So I'll have to look it up. Todd's doing a live fact.
Oh, it is Chuck Grassley, yeah.
Yeah. We could be looking at January 20th, President Chuck Grassley, which I got to say, that might be kind of fun.
Do you think he's sitting over there like, I hope this drags out?
Oh, my God. I don't know. And Chuck, he's kind of funny, and I think I have to look up his age. They said 91 in the thing I was reading, but I think he really is 91 years old.
Yeah, he's old. I was trying to figure out. The schools failed me. I'm trying to figure out what does the role even mean, or how do you get there? Because I know it's a Dem-controlled Senate. The president pro tem, I'm just reading from Wikipedia here, is elected by the Senate as a whole, usually by a resolution, which is adopted by unanimous consent without a formal vote. The Constitution does not specify who can serve in this position, but the Senate has always elected one of its current members. Unlike the vice president, the president pro tem cannot cast a tie-breaking vote when the Senate is evenly divided. The president pro tem has enjoyed many privileges and some limited powers. I don't know if that cleared it up at all. I don't know how they decided on Chuck Grassley. Let me just say that.
It's a ceremonial thing. I think it's Employee of the Month or something, where you just kind of randomly pick. There's not really a criteria, There's probably some administrative things he gets to do instead of the vice president to make the job a little easier. I mean, Congress is funny and it's interesting. So to talk a little business. So at the American Tribune, Freedom from the Press, we have 5 business partners. We're working on a 6th. But we do meetings every 60 days, maybe 30 days. And we get in, we get out, here's our topics. And, we kind of daily course correct and run our business. But I remember when I worked back in the corporate world, how it was every week was meetings, and you had meetings about your meetings. The government is 10 times worse. If you've ever worked in a corporate environment where you have meetings for your meetings, the government is they have titles and meetings about their meetings for their meetings with their meetings. It is the most ridiculous thing ever. We know people that have served in the House where we've communicated their first day, they're going to get the rules package, which are kind of the terms the House is going to operate on for the next 2 years. They'll elect a Speaker of the House. They will vote on a rules package. They will then adjourn, hopefully for them early, because then all the members of the House, even the newly sworn in ones, go have lunch with their lobbyists. And that's their first day in Congress.
All right, Jason, I couldn't let this go. I think we have an answer here for how this is decided. So Chuck Grassley is the Senate pro tem as of today. So the Senate convened, they elected him, and usually how it works is the most senior member of the majority party.
There you go.
There you go. I learned something today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, isn't this fascinating to watch how government works? Nothing is happening in this video right now.
Looks like we've got MTG talking to Johnson. Johnson's just making the rounds right now. I'm sure he's saying, hey, you're voting for me, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to look online to see see what they're saying.
Any inside scoops yet?
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting close. It says up next on C-SPAN, we're going to have a House vote for Speaker. And then I imagine, don't they run down the alphabet? Is that how they do it?
Yeah, they go alphabetically. Thomas Massey just tweeted, 433 members of Congress are being sworn in today. I'm being sworn at. And let's see. Oh, we should almost pull up his tweet.
Yeah, let me pull up his timeline.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, these people. Oh, they
All right,
hate
so
you.
here is Massey. Yep, 5 minutes ago. Handing out some debt badges.
I gotta say too, I am a proud Thomas Massey debt badge owner. I like Thomas Massey.
Yeah, we do too. I got to stress it enough to the people just joining the show. We both support Thomas Massey.
Right.
Just not in this one instance.
Oh.
Yeah, but he says he's going to hand them out to every freshman Republican.
Right. Oh man, if you scroll up though, the comments, the people, we the people salute you. Oh, like this is just brain dead what people are saying.
Yeah, Patty, I think our comments are different. This is one of the features. Oh, there we go. I got my cold there. One of the features of X, though, everybody sees different comments, so you never really know what the conversation is with him. Because I got Patty right over here. Well, you're always against Trump, so we voted for Trump and his agenda. That's kind of at our point. Like, I honestly see this as a ceremonial vote. You are voting for Donald Trump, just like we voted for him in November.
Right. And I'm just looking, yeah, we have different comments, but I'm seeing all these people, oh, we love you, Tom. Oh, that's great. Oh, thanks for doing it. But not a single one of them is saying, like, let's get something done. And that's why, like, these third party movements or like the Libertarian Party, for example, Donald Trump, for the first time ever as a major candidate, went to the Libertarian Party and said, hey, guys, support me. If you endorse me and support me, I will put a libertarian in a cabinet level position. That would have been the closest the Libertarian Party has ever come to real power or influence in Washington, D.C. in its entire existence. The Libertarian Party told him to go pound sand. And I can't stress enough how stupid that was for Libertarian Party. Rather than actually have a member of the Libertarian Party in the cabinet of the president, like in the uppermost echelons, like you literally blow it up because of my convictions. My convictions are I'm not going to do that. And Republicans do stuff like that all the time. Massey, that's what he's doing. Like, I'm going to have these convictions that I'm going to stop the House from getting anything done until I change my mind or we cut a bad deal with Democrats. Thomas Massey, like,
they always cave anyways. I mean, I put this out on X. I commented to someone that was like, yeah, you go, Massey. And I said, he voted for McCarthy 15 times. Like, where are those principles for the McCarthy vote?
Right. Oh, my God. This is just epic. Rep Dan Goldman. Do you remember who Dan Goldman is?
Oh, right? He's the one they always trot out for the hoaxes.
Oh, my God. This November, with Trump continuing to float a run for an unconstitutional third term, I introduced a resolution reaffirming the 22nd Amendment's prohibition of a third presidential term. House R's take an oath to the Constitution, not to Trump, and should have no problem supporting it. Literally. I tell you what, too, on any of these crazy lefty things, I like to put a Star Wars reference reply. Todd, you'll appreciate it on there. I'll put some reply like, hey, Rep Goldman, look at page 548 of Project 2025. Can you put a resolution stopping Trump from building a laser the size of a planet that can destroy another planet? Just things like that. Or, can you, look at page 728 on Project 2025. Can you really prohibit him from requiring people to wear Handmaid's Tale uniforms? Just things like that, because Democrats will believe anything. I tell you what, I'm going to fully lean into
reaffirm what is in the Constitution. I have a bold idea for Democrats. How about you abide by the Constitution in the first place? Maybe you don't use your government power to work behind the scenes with big tech companies to collude against the American people's right to free speech. How about you let us go to church, no matter the circumstances in the world? How about you let us have guns? Let's end that discussion right now. They hate the Constitution.
Right. Oh, Jason rants. Thomas Massey is the worst kind of lawmaker, a petulant, stubborn child who demands ideological purity as he sees it, refuses any kind of compromise, even if it means nothing gets done and hurts the country and Republicans. But he pretends he's principled when he's an egomaniac. Like, I don't know if Massey is an egomaniac, and I don't know if he's intentionally trying to hurt the country. But yeah, I don't necessarily support this vote. But what's interesting is with how close our majority is, I think Massey not voting for him literally can keep him from being speaker.
I think they can only lose 2 votes. So Massey is 1. If they lose 1 more, then we go to round 2.
Yeah, can I share a funny story too?
Fire away. We're still waiting for this. I think they just got sworn into, Jason, as I'm watching, so I think we're getting close.
Giddy up. So Bob Good, who got primaried, he also tweeted out this morning that I will not be voting for Speaker Johnson. And then I saw a bunch of, you know how there's like the 20 Twitter accounts that like take the news and run it like they're breaking it, you know? And they all started doing that with Bob Good. And I just kept replying to all of them. I wonder who he is going to vote for Speaker of the House. None of these folks knew that he got primaried. He isn't in the House anymore. I don't think even if he were in the House that he would have voted for Johnson, but it was just kind of cute that people didn't know Bob would. And then I had to start replying because people would reply to me, like followers of mine, like, well, he didn't get elected. I'm like, yeah, that's what makes it funny. Like, who's he voting for? He's voting for nobody.
No, I'm scrolling here. It's wild. I like to think, I guess I'm not a child anymore in this thought. Like every election cycle, you're like, this person's terrible. We need to primary them. Not enough folks pay attention to primaries. So even though I would like to think these Republican congressmen know what's on the line, this is their last term in Congress if they vote against Johnson and vote against the Trump agenda. But in 2 years, people will forget who they voted for.
Right. Well, and I mean, we saw it. We supported Mayor Trent Staggs is a phenomenal example. He is a small town governor in Utah. Utah got to replace Mitt Romney. Like, we supported him. A number of other influencers supported him. Trump endorsed him. He won. I'll forget the term of their procedure, but he won their Republican caucus by a convincing amount. And then they do an open primary because Utah elected Mike Lee, one of the better senators out there. Based Mike Lee, they elected him because he just ran a primary or a caucus. He won the caucus. And then whoever, it's kind of like in Minnesota, we're going to have a Democrat senator. Like, that's just how it is. Once they won the caucus, they were a shoo-in. Trent Staggs would have been a shoo-in, and instead they put in Curtis. It's ridiculous.
Jason, I'm going to pop this video up. This is hot off the press as well. This goes back to New Orleans. I'll play the video.
Geez.
This is from Nick Sorter, great follow on X as well. Let me read the tweet as you're seeing the video. So Sorter writes, breaking news after letting random reporters roam freely around the New Orleans attacker's home. That's one of the videos we played. Bomb squad has shut down the area and is returning to the property. That is the alley. Haven't fact checked this. Don't know for certain. Don't even know if that's his house. I suppose it would be. Why would it not be if he's going to? Sorter's pretty solid when it comes to reporting over on X. But so now they're going to shut it down after all the people went in there.
This is how incompetent does your FBI need to be to convince you that we need to shut it down? Oh my gosh.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through the timeline, see if anybody else has weighed in.
I'm going to play this as well. So we had the video of MTG talking to Mike Johnson.
So it's going to be really, really interesting to see, should that measure be adopted, how this continues. And of course, it's
someone on X did a little lip reading. They said, stop working with the Democrats. That's what they said. MTG just told him before the vote. I'm not a lip reader, but
stop working with Democrats.
Let's see if we can read her lips. Stop working with Democrats. I don't know if that's their made up quote or if she said that, but yeah, stop working with them, Mike.
Well, and Mike Johnson, can we oh my God. Eugene Vindman. Getting ready to start my first day of work. Can I just say, like, if you don't hate the Vindmans enough, I want to give a shout out to Will Tanner's article on the Vindmans. Well,
Hey, I want credit for that one, Jason.
What's that?
I want credit for that one.
Oh, the Vindman story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to do a breakdown on Eugene Vindman while we're killing time waiting for him to vote?
Well, Eugene is the brother of Alexander Vindman, who Vindman was I think he was NSC at the time. Now you're making remember, I wrote this article a year and a half ago, but Vindman was the one that leaked the transcripts of the phone call between Donald Trump and Zelensky, Ukraine's president, back in 2019, and that set up the entire impeachment hoax, number one, where they said, quid pro quo. Donald Trump asked for something, quid pro quo. You can't do that as president. That's illegal. Now we have to impeach you. I mean, it was all staged in a hoax. But that was Vindman's claim to fame. And when you go down Vindman's path, it is astonishing. This is a person that was born in Ukraine. So what are the odds that this Ukrainian-born, I take that back. He has Ukrainian heritage. What are the odds that this Ukrainian-affiliated NSC member within the deep state, the NSC is the deep state, would be the one to release the transcript that involved President Zelensky of Ukraine? And then he's out there testifying about how hard his life is and here's how corrupt Donald Trump is. And I had to put my country above politics because I support a Republican president or some nonsense like that. Absolutely wild stuff. So Vindman is the one that got that whole ball rolling. And then as I write, he is, I think it's called Trident Support LLC, Trident something. Yeah, you come back. I'll keep telling the story here. But then Vindman started a contracting company, a military contracting company during the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the war that's going on in Ukraine still, and this company has made tens of millions of dollars of U.S. tax dollar subsidies because he had the bold idea of setting up shop in Ukraine to repair machinery, equipment, vehicles that would otherwise have to get flown to American bases over in Germany, like Ramstein. So instead of flying the equipment and the machinery that was in need of repair over to these bases far away, he just had a company that set up shop right there. And wouldn't you know that Vindman was involved once again in this fiasco? But wherever you see something going on with one of the regime narratives, whether it is a Trump hoax, whether it is the war overseas that is going on in Eastern Europe, Vindman's right there. He is present. And as I pointed out in the article here, we'll have to pull it up. You can find this on Substack at theamericantribune.news. If you're into simulation theory, and Jason's gone, so I can go on this tangent as well. If you're into that thing, Vindman was featured as a young boy, and I believe it was Brooklyn, New York, where he and his brother were raised, featured in a documentary. What are the odds? Again, you just have to ask the question, how did this child, out of all of the kids in New York City, get featured in some special to highlight his Ukrainian heritage, and then he becomes an adult, gets into the NSC, is involved in the release of the transcript that sets off the hoax, later on goes to start his Trident company in Ukraine to get tens of millions of dollars from the U.S. government. War profiteer is the best way to describe him. But now Jason was asking about Eugene. Eugene is the younger brother, I believe, of this Alexander Vindman character, and he just got elected in Virginia to the House of Representatives. And these two dudes, they just look squishy and weak and effeminate. They're out there talking about how they're saving the country. Their worldview is correct. These people could not be more hawkish in their view on war and establishment totalitarianism. But the people of Virginia voted this guy in because the Vindman name carried some weight. Yeah, that's the brother of the guy that started the Trump impeachment process, and we had to impeach Donald Trump. You don't hate them enough. You don't hate this family enough. I dare say their priorities do not lie in America first.
Right. And can I just say Vindman, and I forgot you wrote that one. God, do you remember back when you were writing on the Substack?
Yeah, and then I wasn't smart guy enough, so I got kicked out. I get it. I know my limitations.
Well, it wasn't even that. I think it was you were starting to do it in video podcasts. And
I have pretty thick skin.
Right. Well, we can start your own written podcast or Substack.
Well, let me make a plug. Instead of written content, folks, I do a live podcast. That's going to be my wheelhouse, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson, every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Central.
Right. Yeah, so when we started the Substack, Will and Todd would rotate. One would do 1 week, one would do the other. But then Will kind of took over the Substack because he really likes writing smart guy stuff. And we're like, we should probably separate it out. But we could get Todd rewriting again. I remember some of those early pieces, the Epstein's ones, the Vindman ones.
Oh, I did a Mitch McConnell expose. Man, you don't hate McConnell enough either. Everyone is just like, I know I don't like Mitch McConnell. I know he just seems like a Democrat and he's part of the Uniparty and he's the reason Donald Trump didn't get anything done in the Senate. Yeah, that is all correct. You know you're not supposed to like Mitch McConnell, but it goes so much worse. Gets so much worse when you dig into the Chinese connections. He married a Chinese gal that was in Trump's cabinet the first go around, which, again, Trump had a lot of horrible decisions. But her dad was some massive Chinese shipping magnate. They have offices in New York and I think Hong Kong or China over there. Dude's worth millions of dollars. And you're just like, how is this possible? Like, yeah, we always talk about China owning politicians. And Mitch McConnell's father-in-law is high up in China as some rich businessman. Yeah, right. Literally owned.
It's crazy. Hey, what do we got on C-SPAN?
Oh, I thought I shared the tab here.
Oh, no. Right now we're still on the MTG one.
Oh, we'll get that out of there. Here, let's go back to this. There we are. So Chip Roy looking glum. Look at Chip over there.
Chip Roy's probably mad at Massey because he's like, okay. I think they can lose. I think he can lose one vote.
I think it's just one vote.
Yeah. So I think it was probably a competition between Roy and Massey for who got to be the one guy not to vote for Johnson. Oh my God.
Massey has always been a no vote. So Chip Roy knows he's going to be the bad guy because I think people give Massey a pass and stuff like this. They're like, yeah, that's just Massey. He's Mr. No in DC. So Chip Roy is the one whose reputation is on the line for the last time. Either he holds out no and then all of MAGA hates him, or he votes yes and he sells out his principles because he's been no as well. Like Chip Roy is the one that this comes down to, I think, and he's the one that he's going to take all of the heat. Either way, whatever vote he casts, Chip Roy is going to get hated.
Has Chip Roy weighed in?
Representatives elect have recorded their presence. A quorum is present. Credentials, regular and form, have been received showing the election of the Honorable Pablo Jose Hernandez Rivera as resident commissioner from the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico for a term of 4 years beginning January 3rd, 2025. The Honorable Eleanor Holmes Norton as delegate from the District of Columbia. The Honorable James C. Moylan as delegate from Guam. The Honorable Stacey E. Plaskett as delegate from the Virgin Islands. The Honorable Amua Amada Coleman Radawagan as delegate from American Samoa. And the Honorable Kimberlyn King Hines as delegate from the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. The clerk is in receipt of a letter.
Oh, you're muted.
Shoot, that was the best thing I've ever said. It was muted. No, he's just talking about names of these non-voting people that don't matter. He mentioned Stacey Plaskett's name, and I didn't realize that she was a non-voting member because Stacey Plaskett, I think, was the head Democrat in a lot of these House weaponization hearings, like the subcommittee on government weaponization. She had a very prominent role. She was yelling and ripping up paper in front of Johnson and doing all sorts of stuff. I didn't realize she had no voting power. I thought she was some like prominent, I'll just say Black American representative, but turns out she has no power in Congress. But
isn't she from like Guam or something ridiculous?
She represents the Virgin Islands. Yeah, I just had to Google that myself.
Right.
Why do they give them airtime? You don't get to vote. Why are you on committees? Why are you like the head Democrat on committees?
Right. You know, we should celebrate too. This election cycle, we did get rid of 2 members of the squad. Corey Bush and Jamal Bowman. Like, they're out. I mean, that's cool.
I don't know if their replacements will do any better. They still voted for a Democrat from St. Louis and New York City. Like, that's not going to change anything, but I do love to see these losers get defeated.
Right.
All right. I think
I think they nominated him.
Here we go, folks. Buckle up.
Buckle up.
Welcome, everybody. I am optimistic about our future. On November 5th, the American people gave us a great opportunity to get America back on the right track.
They gave us an opportunity to get back to normal and to get back to the real issues that the country faces right now. People want the opportunity to take care of their families. They simply want to provide for their children and give them a prosperous future. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the opportunity today to do just that. We have an opportunity to take our country back. With Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, and President Donald J. Trump in charge, we have the opportunity to put America first again. We have an opportunity to do something about crime. We have an opportunity to do something about the border. And we have an opportunity to take care of our veterans. We and every single member in this chamber, and those of you watching at home and on TV, should be looking forward, knowing that America will be respected again. Our country is the last bastion of hope. If we fail, then who? This is why we are focused on the issues that the majority of Americans care about: God, family, country, faith, freedom, and traditional American values. And we should be making it easier for people to achieve the American dream. Over 14 months ago, Mike Johnson took on a daunting task. No speaker is perfect, and no one will ever be. However,
Todd, I'm just moved by this
achieving
speech. I don't know about
perfection
you.
requires
I'm bored out of my mind. I was going to
incremental
mute her and start
gains
talking again.
and
Like, I don't
hard
need
decisions along the way.
Let's
None
mute her
of
and
us will
talk a
get
little bit.
She's just like, this is my moment. This is going to be about me. I'm going to say things that sound great and get my sound bites. Nobody cares, lady. I'm just going to say this on behalf of all Americans. Nobody cares what you have to say. Say, I am here to nominate Mike Johnson, and sit down.
Yes. Well, and what's funny, though, what you got to understand how this works is, this is like, I've never heard much of Lisa. Like, she was picked. This is her chance. Remember that one gal that gave the rebut to the
Katie Britt of Alabama.
Yeah, Katie Britt of Alabama. She had her minute where they tried to put young, female, good-looking gal up there. And then what did she do to crap the bed? I remember she
did it from her kitchen.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I forget what she said exactly, but it was panned universally. Like, we all hated it. Democrats ran with that. They're like, this is where they want women. Like, it was, the optics were bad. The speech was forgetful. It was horrible.
Right. So anyways, this is good. Everybody's watching this with us, because put your eye. Now we got to look up Lisa and find out what her background is, because they may, and I think wisely put, most Republican senior leadership is old white dudes. And it would probably make sense to get some guys like Byron Donalds, or, there's some diversity in the caucus, get some women up there, not that we want to be the DEI caucus, but too many other communities, they don't even know we have female members of the Republican Party. And Kagan girl, Chip Roy, is walking a fine line.
With Chip Hour.
Yeah, what do you think, Kagan? Is Chip Roy and Big Bad, like, you're from Texas, I think. Like, is Chip Roy gonna fall in line? Let's go. Okay, here goes Mike Johnson. Should we turn him back on?
Donna, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in. Vote for Mike Johnson.
The clerk now recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar.
All right, so here's
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Here's the Democrat.
Jason, I don't even know if I can stomach the lies these guys are about to tell, so I'm just going to mute the Democrats.
No, you got to play this a little bit.
Oh, God. Jason
Our
hates all of
audience has to hear this. This is
Oh,
the
it's the
most.
same guy from last time, too.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I've had a little bit of practice, and clearly my colleagues took notice. I rise to place a name in nomination, but first, I want to acknowledge my colleague from Michigan for her heartfelt and personal nominating speech. As someone who's given a few of these, I can say you served your conference well, Representative McLean. But Mr. Clerk, today I rise on behalf of the governing majority of the House of Representatives.
Oh,
I see. Fact check that Facebook. Governing majority.
The American people have sent a strong message that they want their elected leaders working together to tackle the affordability crisis. There is only one leader in this chamber with a track record of compromise, conviction, and compassion. There is only one leader who understands the needs of the working people and has lived the American dream himself and is committed to ensuring its promise for future generations. There is only one leader who knows how to negotiate a bipartisan deal and then stick to that deal.
I mean, I will say this. That was fact check true. Democrats deliver what they promise. Republicans largely do not. They campaign on what sounds great, and then they always let you down as a conservative.
Behind the most powerful legislative leader in this chamber, Hakeem Jeffries of Brooklyn. House Democrats, under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries, are committed to bipartisanship and common sense solutions to America's most pressing challenges. In the face of chaos and dysfunction over the last 2 years, our caucus has kept the government funded, kept our allies protected, and the economy secured from the catastrophic default. In the 119th Congress, we will work with the incoming administration to make life better, safer, and more affordable for working families. And the incoming administration must also recognize that while my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are divided, and while compromise remains a dirty word for so many, Congress won't be able to keep the lights on, let alone pass anything of substance, without the buy-in and blessing of House Democrats and Hakeem Jeffries.
Fact check false. I got to say this, Jason. We don't need Democrats. You and I have said repeatedly since Donald Trump won and we got the House and the Senate, it won't be Democrats that block the Trump agenda because they are irrelevant when it comes to votes. Republicans have a majority in both of the chambers. Democrats are irrelevant in these conversations.
I got to say, I mentioned earlier how thin the majorities were in Nancy Pelosi's House when she was Speaker and in Minnesota as examples. Democrats vote lockstep. It doesn't take a large majority to get things done. It just takes everybody on the same mission. And I got to give Democrats credit too. They used to be the party that would like fight and argue and do all that stuff. But in the last 20 years, we have seen a really successful transformation where the corporatist end of the Democrats just rule and what they say goes. And every now and then one will get a little bit off the reservation, like, I want this or I want that. But at the end of the day, they are a monolith. And it's remarkable because knowing Democrats growing up 20, 30, 40 years ago, they would pride themselves on their diversity of opinion, their different approaches, their way to hash things out. And now the Democrat Party has become the monolith the Republican Party used to be, where it's like, no, like when I was young, and if I would speak out against, oh, hey, we're going to war in another, Middle Eastern country for oil, great. Like you'd be ostracized as a Republican. Whereas a Democrat, you could have been pro-war, anti-war, that kind of thing. But it's just weird to see it totally reversed. The other thing is I don't know if I've seen anybody less impressive than Hakeem Jeffries. Like even Pete giving the speech, like I could see him being Speaker of the House. But when I see Hakeem Jeffries speak, like we'll have to turn him on. It's just painful. I'm like Obama, I could at least see why people voted for him. Dude was slick as hell.
What do they call him? Like Timu Obama?
Yeah, Timu or Wish Obama. Oh, we got to hear him.
Here we go.
Hello, I'm Hakeem Jeffries.
The slow clap roll, really?
The names of the Honorable Mike Johnson, a representative-elect from the state of Louisiana, and the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, a representative-elect from the state of New York, have been placed in nomination. Are there further nominations?
I should have remembered that because I sat through like.
There being no further nominations, the clerk appoints the following tellers.
Why didn't
The
Matthew
gentleman from
nominate
North
somebody?
Carolina,
Hey,
Ms.
Matthew, do you have an
Fox.
alternative?
The gentleman from New York, Mr. Morelli. The gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Stile. And the gentlewoman from California, Mrs. Torres. The tellers will come forward and take their seats at the desk in front of the speaker's rostrum.
Do you think Chip Roy is just sweating right now?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking on the Twitter, and people are loving taking screenshots of Chip Roy and like putting him on there. Like he looks nervous because Massey, like well played by Massey, he jumped out way in front of this. This process takes a while too because they literally go through all of them. Yeah, an SBL from the Twitter X. No bleep. If you're a no, nominate someone else. Fact check true. I gotta say too, this is an hour in, and like we're still getting started. Like, welcome to Congress, folks. And this might be fun because some people may have never watched this. Todd spends way too much time watching C-SPAN.
I love this stuff. I hate that I love it. I know it's all these people are criminals. But this is what we got. There's no alternative to this.
Yeah, let's take some of the least impressive people in America and put them up running the country.
Game on. Game on. Loosen the tie.
Yeah, while they're muted for a second. Kagan Girl writes, who knows? He's setting himself up to get voted out if he votes against the Trump agenda. I mean, I don't think I vote out Thomas Massey for going against Donald Trump because you don't know what the replacement is like. If you get an establishment Republican in that seat instead, goodness knows what chaos that would bring in too. But interesting debate happening within MAGA now. Like, are you with us or against us? Are we going to have coalitions of the Massey libertarian mold? I like to think I prefer Massey, but if he's going to be an impediment for 4 years against Donald Trump, then you're doing more harm than good.
Right. Now, is that the season?
Yeah,
Can you speed that up? Are we behind? I just saw on Twitter. Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Jeffries.
I just saw on Twitter X somebody recorded Beaupert's vote, and she gave a little shot. Don't let us down, Mr. Speaker.
Desarnay. Jeffries. Desjardins. Johnson. Dexter.
You can mute it too, Todd, if you want. We can talk over it because they're
Right,
just in the
if you're watching live on video, you can see the tally there. I can't make the screen any bigger, unfortunately. C-SPAN just changed how they have videos embedded in their website and how they post it. It's a complete disaster over there.
Right. Well, and luckily, oh God, I wonder what he must have voted.
Well, he voted already. They're on the J's and the K's, so
Right.
I wonder if CNN has a live tracking of who voted.
It's just all alphabetical, so I remember that watching all the revotes for the last one. Like I could literally name like, oh, okay, here's so-and-so, here's so-and-so.
I think we're getting to Massey soon. I'm going to turn this on.
Yeah.
Mike Johnson. Johnson. Evans of Colorado. Mike Johnson. Johnson. Evans of Pennsylvania.
Never mind, we're on the E's. All right, we'll skip that for now. Because, Chip Roy, we got to wait for the entire roll call.
Oh, imagine poor Chip Roy.
Massey's already going to say no before him.
Right.
Oh, Jason, I'm going to cut away from CNN. I have 2 Kamala clips from her moments this morning swearing in the new senators.
You need to. Was the one
All right. So here we go, folks. This is Kamala Harris. The title is Messed Up the Pledge of Allegiance on the Senate Floor. Let's take a listen to this one.
Me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the United States.
Hold on. Here we go.
Pledge allegiance to the United States.
She doesn't know the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America?
Just, well, in her defense, what are the odds she's sober, Todd? It's like noon
0.
somewhere.
I'm sorry. Even if you're blotto, you have that memorized as a 5-year-old. You could walk into a kindergarten classroom and they could all recite that for you. Well, maybe not anymore. I take that back because they don't do the pledge anymore in school. This is one of those things that is just burned into your brain as the result of being a child at some point. Inexcusable. But I got another one here. This is J.D. Vance breaking up when Kamala tries to swear them in, too. So J.D. Vance laughing in her face during the swearing in of senators.
You solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance.
Do you think he was laughing when defend the Constitution? He's like, this chick is telling me to defend the Constitution?
Right.
Oh, I love to the same, so that you take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose.
All right, well, that was the moment there where he laughs in her, but I love it. Jason, I love this. On the way out, she can't help but make a fool of herself.
Right.
People voted for this. 48% of the country voted for that. I will never get over that. We talked about it not being a landslide earlier. Like, there's a lot of work to do. The margin of error is small. We can't lose votes in the future, but when 48% of the country votes for Kamala Harris, the worst nominee, the worst candidate we have ever seen, that portends big problems in my mind, not landslide victory.
And it really brings up a good point. Like, maybe folks that watch the show can help us figure it out here. But if you put yourself in the mind of a Democrat voter, like, how could you have convinced yourself to vote for Kamala Harris? I mean, literally 3 months ago or before Joe Biden dropped out, everybody agreed she was an idiot. Like, there was no question. There was no like, oh, I wonder. She was just an idiot. And then all of a sudden, like, they convinced themselves to vote for her. It's remarkable. Oh, should we see what letters we're up to?
Yeah, let's take a listen.
Gosar.
We're on Gosar. Man, that's a lot of... So far,
yeah,
folks,
it takes a while.
76, 74. It's all unanimous so far for the nominees.
Johnson. Gray. Jeffries. Green of Tennessee.
We're on the
Johnson.
G here. We got a ways to go to Massey for that first no vote.
Right. And who do you think he's going to vote for?
This could be a fun bet.
Yeah.
Who do you vote for? Who is the alternative? That's the question.
I don't know.
If it's not Johnson, then who? Like, there's never been a good answer. Does he vote for
I feel
himself?
like we missed an opportunity to get our wagers in.
We
So
have time. We're only
let's
on the
say,
Gs.
let's say in the Rumble chat, like anybody that can pick who Massey's going to vote for correctly Like, send Todd and I a message, Todd or I a message. We'll give you a gift card for the American Tribune store.
Yeah, that reminds me, Jason, we owe hats or mugs or merch to the people that joined us on election night, but I never got any addresses. Folks, you can find me over on X at Todd Amtrib, TODDAMTRIB. If you have an X account, sign up for one if you don't. But send me a message. Give me your name, give me your address. We will send you a free piece of merch from the American Tribune store. And Jason, while we are plugging the store, I got this nifty American Tribune mug. Jason's got it as well. It's got the hat. I've got my hat from my live show. You can head out to the AmericanTribuneStore.com. I think we're running 15% off everything right now. I think we've always been running 15% off, but check out all of our stuff over there. Doesn't help us out a whole lot. We make a few bucks in every item, but if you want to represent the show out in public, share your mug with your Democrat voting family member or friend, that would be more rewarding than the few dollars we get off your sale.
Well, and actually, just as we're talking about stuff, so people don't know, like the icon for the company, the American Tribune, was selected by Will, and we all went with it. Will mentioned it on his Substack this week, but Tiberius Gratiot was a Roman who led a populist movement where basically the citizenry kind of overthrew the aristocracy, because over the life of Rome, like there were times where the people in power kind of got off track and the citizens had to rise up and put them back in line. Oh, do we turn it in? Or do you turn the volume back on?
Sorry, I'm just tweeting really fast here. Live show, live tweets.
Yeah. Oh, Big Bad is saying Chip will vote present.
Oh.
Yeah, but then so he won't vote for somebody? Like,
but isn't that cowardly? Like, we just got to talk about it.
Right. Well, and I saw a tweet from Rich Barris that I think perfectly summed it up, which was talking about the principled conservatives who won't actually go run for office. Where are all these principled conservatives when Republicans are holding primaries, or later when congressional Republicans were running behind Trump? Again, it's a charade. His point being, like, people act like they care. The problem with principled conservatives is that almost all of these holy warriors are MIA during serious primary fights. And then he lists several of the people who would have need support, but they got none.
Well said. Well said. And Jason, shout out to Susan Gibbs. Susan Gibbs joining us over on Facebook from the Wayne Dupree Show. Hope that big baby Jeffrey doesn't get it. I mean, he shouldn't. We have the majority. I don't think these Republicans are going to be that stupid. They know what's at stake here. But again, you never know with House Republicans. But thanks for tuning in, Susan. Join us over on Rumble, too, if you get a chance. It's a free account to create. You can get the app on your phone. You can go on your desktop to watch it. We're over at Rumble at the American Tribune.
Oh, and it looks like Biggs actually skipped voting.
Jeffries.
Yeah, I saw a tweet earlier that not everyone was at the quorum, too.
Jeffries.
Could Republicans make this any harder? Sorry, who voted for Jeffries that he needed to be did he vote for himself?
Oh, that Jeffries voting for Jeffries. That always gets an applause. When Johnson votes for Johnson.
Johnson of Louisiana. Johnson.
That was fun that was on the track back. Oh, I like Frosty's comment. Frosty, thanks for joining us over here. Here, let me mute a second to give you a full kudos. Frosty over on Rumble writes, Chip will vote Johnson since he voted with our communications to stay open for the FBI to keep listening to us. Yeah, how about that, Chip Roy? You supported Johnson then.
Right.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, and like, why is Chip Roy? He always shows up just when he can grandstand and not get anything done.
That's all this is. Yeah, very selective principles here.
Right.
All right, we should be coming. Well, we got JKLM. We're getting closer to Massey, but
now you did bring up an interesting point too, Todd, because you worked in the public school system. When did they do away with the Pledge of Allegiance?
So when I came back to Minnesota from Arizona in 2015, and none of my schools did the pledge then. So in Minnesota, it was Minnesota is definitely ahead of the woke curve, so they were one of the first ones to do it. I can't think of any Pledge of Allegiance in my schools ever.
Really?
I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't want to be intentionally dishonest. That's not the point. And I was out of the classroom at that point as well. I take it back. When I was in St. Cloud, we did the Pledge of Allegiance up there, but I wasn't a teacher at that point. I know for a fact when I was assistant principal, we did not do any pledging or anything like that.
God, think of that. Like that used to be like just 101. Like, hey kids, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, I know as a teacher when I was in Phoenix, we would do the pledge every day, and I had kids that chose not to stand and say it. And, we were directed to let them have that freedom. So we would have kids that sit down, just no pledge.
Oh, that's just ridiculous.
Glad to hear Big Bad says they still do it in Texas, as they should. And you know what? You get these Thomas Massey would probably be like, did you know that a communist wrote the Pledge of Allegiance and is all about worshiping the state? Like, so that's the rabbit hole these other folks like to go down. You're just worshiping the state, worshiping the government when you say the Pledge of Allegiance. But no, it's a little bit healthy to be without nationalism. If you're not a nationalist, then what's the point? Like, you have to have a country. You want your country to be successful. This is kind of part and parcel.
Well, and it's interesting too to think about is that, part of what the communists have done, in addition to destroying religion, I went on my religious rant earlier, is they've destroyed the feeling of people loving America, and they've somehow made us ashamed to be Americans, or not proud of the fact that it's the most exceptional country in the history of countries. There is no better place that you'd like to live right now, even with the problems that we face. And even like that always gets me fired up too when people think about like, oh, America had slavery. Yeah, every country in the world had slavery. Oh, America had racism. Yeah, every country in the world has racism. Like these are all existing in every civilization.
Ledger Fernandez.
No one else. We're getting close to M.A. Matthew.
We might have to let this run.
Johnson.
And Big Bad says they have the 10 Commandments in every campus in Texas.
Ricardo.
Getting up.
Jeffries. Lou.
Yeah, a friend just texted. We have 4 president votes from Republicans right now, Jason.
Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk.
We have 4 president
4 president votes.
Lucas.
Oh no.
Johnson. Luna.
Mike Johnson.
Johnson. Littrell. Johnson. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. Johnson. McKenzie. Johnson.
Here we go.
Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. Johnson. Malloy. Johnson. Mann.
Mike Johnson.
Johnson. Mannion.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Massey. Emmer.
There it is.
What?
Mast.
Mike Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah, and I noticed that he's going for the no glasses look lately too. That's neither here nor there, but changing up his look as he's going to be on the outs of MAGA.
Well, and didn't his wife just die?
Yeah, she died in like October or November, right?
Right, yeah. His wife died. I hadn't heard what she died from. But yeah, all of a sudden now he's lost weight. He's losing the glasses. But yeah, Emmer, Tom. What's your thoughts on Emmer?
I got to be honest, Jason. I live in Tom Emmer's district. I never hear a word from him. We follow this for a living, so we know a little bit, but as far as his presence in Minnesota, it is non-existent. I can't think of a single thing Emmer has done for his district where I live. I voted for Tom Emmer because that was the only option, but I'm not impressed with Tom Emmer. I don't know. He's on the House leadership team. That's already a red flag to me because you get on the House leadership team as establishment, and I'm drawing a blank, Jason. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know why people like Tom Emmer so much.
No, I don't get it either. Maybe you should take Tom Emmer's seat.
Maybe I should. I was going to run for the Minnesota House seat in 2 years in 2026. Maybe I'll just go for the congressional seat.
Yeah, go for the congressional seat. Why not?
I'm sure I could out fundraise Tom Emmer, Mr.
Right.
House Speaker.
Yeah, can you imagine running against Emmer? Like, how much would they spend on an inconsequential House race if you actually like grew legs and got close? You know.
Well, I think the playbook, though, all you got to do is go on social media nowadays, like the old school way of getting media coverage and spending money. Like money helps, but hey guys, I'm on social media. I'm posting it. You have access to what I say in real time every single day. And here's what Tom Emmer does every day in Washington that hurts you.
Right.
Let's make it happen. All right, folks. Are we announcing a congressional bid?
Yeah, God, we could be. Frosty, though, my son was going to Lincoln Park schools in 2010, where the pledge was at 8 a.m. every day, but moved to Clarkston, Michigan, and the pledge went away. Shocked not only me, but my son. Yeah, that's funny. How did that happen? Like nobody cared. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I will tell you why it happened. It's because it's the same philosophy that is corrupting every government school in America right now. It was woke before there was woke.
Right.
We had to be inclusive of every student, and not every student recognizes God. Not every student is born in America and white. And so they use the pledge to say this is from a time when we said under God, it was for white kids in America. There's so much oppression in our history, and it's not inclusive to new immigrants here that have another home flag. Like all the jibber jab that you hear about wokeness, like that was what happened. That was the mindset of getting rid of the pledge. I hate it.
Oh my God. Okay, if we need to fill some time, this clip looks hysterical. Let me drop it in the
podcast chat.
Actually, I'll just drop it in the article ideas, because that could be an article. It was what I referenced earlier.
What article segment? This is us talking business in real time here.
In the article ideas one.
Yep.
I just dropped that one from Johnny Maga.
Is it crime, political, entertainment?
Oh, no, sorry. In our regular main Discord channel. Down at the bottom, I have the article idea one that I share with, or I'll just drop it in our podcast one. You can find it there.
Boy, this is how the sausage is made.
Yeah, look at that. We're doing the behind the scenes. Folks, if you want to be part of our extensive operation at the American Tribune, subscribe to the Rumble. Like, we can have Rumble subscriptions now.
Hey, we got a second vote all of a sudden.
Uh-oh. No.
Johnson. Messmer. Nadler. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. Nagoose. Jeffries. Nails. Johnson. Newhouse.
Mr. Johnson.
Johnson. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. Jordan.
Who did that?
Jeffries.
Yeah, I missed that again. Yeah.
Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. Jordan.
Norman. All right, time to pull this school up.
None of Iowa. Johnson.
Ralph Norman, folks.
Ogonote.
I'll pause it for a second. Ralph Norman is this fool's name. He represents South Carolina. What else can we pull up on him? Just going through Wikipedia. Wikipedia says that he advocated for the implementation of martial law to prevent the peaceful transfer of power to Joe Biden in 2021. That's news to me.
Yeah, no kidding.
I guess I didn't hear a lot of noise about Ralph Norman.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily see that happening.
Yeah, he seems to be on the same side as MAGA on a lot of these issues here. As I'm
Right.
going through just Wikipedia's political positions. Yeah, that one's interesting. Follow his bank accounts.
Right.
All right, should we play that clip?
Yeah.
Well, I got bad news. Congressman Bob Good just tweeted out he will not be voting for Mike Johnson.
Well, remember, Brian, Bob Good has left, so I don't is maybe there's some other name, but Bob Good is you know.
Could we check that?
Yeah,
Were you saying
yes.
that?
He was Bob Good lost that close primary back in that Virginia seat. John McGuire is the new member there. John will be voting for Mike Johnson for Speaker. So I think it's still just Thomas Massey who's indicated he won't support the Speaker, but I'm hopeful that everyone else will.
All right.
How embarrassing. Number one, you're getting this from X. They're like, oh, no, X is not a thing. We're corporate media. We're number one. And then they always go to X to get the news. And then number two, you're not aware that. How did this get missed along the lines of producer, intern, host? Like, do you need more proof? They just read a script. They don't care what's happening. Bob Good is not in Congress.
Yeah, I gotta say, I found that clip funny because I talked about the joke earlier, how I kept replying to him saying, like, oh, I'm not voting for Mass. Oh, who are you gonna vote for? And then all the replies saying, like, he's not voting for anybody because he's out. And I'm like, that's the joke. People didn't get my joke. It's like when you tell a dad joke, nobody gets it. Maybe it's not funny, but imagine Fox News falling for that. Like,
yeah, that's embarrassing. Yeah, we got Tony Taylor. Thanks for watching, Tony, over on Rumble. Didn't he say Jordan, not Norman? Yeah, so Ralph Norman voted for Jim Jordan. That's how that played out. I was just curious who that guy was, that old crotchety dude sitting down, not voting for Donald Trump's Mike Johnson pick. So I had to check him out a little bit. And I guess I'm surprised. based on what I've seen about Ralph Norman's voting record.
Right.
Maybe not voting record's the right word. Maybe just his stances. I'm sure he votes with the establishment.
Oh man. Yeah, now. Oh, this is ridiculous. Ralph Norman. Time to go digging into Ralph Norman. And can I just say, Thomas Massey, you voted for Emmer. Like, I can't even.
So, not knowing everything about Tom Emmer, I think I have a pretty general idea that is directionally true about Emmer. In what world is Tom Emmer that much of an upgrade to Mike Johnson? So you are willing to put this all on the line to maybe upgrade to Emmer? Like, I could see going back and forth if you had Paul Ryan to Thomas Massey. There is a difference that I can relate to. But when you're going from Mike Johnson to Tom Emmer and that's the hill you're going to die on?
Oh, man, are the other votes 3 now?
Yeah, it sounds like Byron just got one too. Who did this now?
Oh, my God, we're going to have to listen to it.
It's so hard to scroll back. This is a long video.
Johnson. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. Johnson. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Scalise. Johnson. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schmidt. Johnson. Schneider. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Schweikert. Johnson. Austin Scott. Johnson. David Scott. Jeffries. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. Donalds.
Self. Who is this guy?
Oh, I think Bob Self.
Keith Self?
Yeah, Keith Self.
Oh, this is another.
He's from Texas.
Oh my!
Big
What is
Bad? What the heck?
Oh, Texas? Chip Roy and Keith Self. I have never heard of Keith Self before. How about that? He looks like he's 100 years old too.
Oh, and I pulled up his image. Oh my God! Pull up his Twitter feed. The first image is proudly endorsed by President Donald J. Trump. It's his pinned image.
And he sold out Trump. What in the world?
Oh my God. Oh, look at this, folks. You're seeing some behind how the sausage is made. There's Todd tweeting.
I'm retweeting his pinned message.
Oh my God. Now, I learned a lot the last House vote. Like, I had never really watched many House votes until they got rid of McCarthy. And then I watched like a bunch of those. So like after they run through, they can queue it back up and just run through the whole alphabet again, or they can go back and caucus in the room and see if they can figure it out. But are you ready for an interesting thing? And I'll probably have the math wrong, and I'm doing this in real time, so I might need to look it up. If Republicans like Andy Biggs and several others abstain from voting in the first round, if enough Republicans don't vote, it lowers the number of votes that you need to become Speaker of the House, and you could end up with the Speaker's Jeffries. And I'll have to look up the numbers. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was like last time they ran into that sometimes where like somebody ran to the bathroom and didn't vote. And they had a couple of the votes that if like 2 or 3 Republicans that were out of the chamber didn't make it back to vote, Jeffries would have been elected. And it was interesting too, because no Democrat missed a single vote ever. They were just like good, obedient children.
Well, here we go. Speaking of votes, Jeffries is up to 206.
Oh my gosh. Hakeem Jeffries tweeting from the House floor, the GOP civil war is in full swing and it's only day one.
I gotta say, I hate this narrative so much that you need to be in lockstep. Like, yes, it's healthy for our party to have different points of views. Maybe not right now. Right now, we should all support Mike Johnson. But the fact that they are totalitarian in their groupthink should be a huge red flag for all Democrats. Like, you are not allowed to stray at all. You believe whatever you're told by leadership. It is very top down. It's the opposite of how this should play out. So I hate that they make that a thing. Like, oh, look at them. They're divided. Like, yep, we are allowed to discuss things.
Right.
So Jeffries is up to 211. I don't know how many Democrats there are. Are they like 216?
I think it's 218 to 219, if I remember my totals.
Well,
like I should have looked all that up, but I didn't think I would need it this time.
So if we had 4 present and 3 other.
Yeah, so the presents we need. Yeah, now I'm going to have to. Oh, are you looking it up?
No, I was.
Yeah, I'll look it up in a sec. Oh, all right. Let's ask Gronk. How many votes?
Johnson.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from the Virgin Islands seek recognition?
Speaker, I have a parliamentary inquiry. I note that the names of the representatives from the Americas Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the District of Columbia were not called, representing collectively 4 million Americans.
False. You don't have a voice in Congress.
Yes, you are correct. Those are the rules.
Have they ever voted?
No.
Mr. Speaker, collectively the largest per capita of veterans in this country.
Does the gentlelady have a parliamentary
I
inquiry?
asked why they were not called.
Wasn't I just telling you that this lady always gets
It's not
angry
gonna
and screams about nothing?
Yeah, you did reference her earlier.
What she does.
I asked why they were not called from the parliamentarian, please.
Delegates-elect and the resident commissioner-elect are not qualified to vote. Representatives-elect are the only individuals qualified to vote in the election of a speaker. As provided in Section 36 of the House Rules and Manual, the speaker is elected by a majority of the members-elect voting by surname.
Body and this nation has a territories and a colonies problem. What was supposed to be temporary has now effectively become permanent. We must do something about this problem so that these 4 million.
No, the universe. What a racist display. Again.
Oh God, Todd, this is totally legit.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the representatives-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Don't respond to Patricia.
Yeah, I'll delete it. Okay, so I looked it up. Are you ready?
Biggs of Arizona.
Oh, wait.
Johnson. Carson. Jeffries.
I don't know about you, but I'm starting to think, is Jeffries going to be the new speaker?
Cloud. Johnson.
I'll run through how close this is
Clyde.
in just a sec.
Clyde. Gosar. Gosar. Harris of Maryland. Johnson. Roy. Johnson.
Oh, Roy.
Whoa, Chip Roy had to save the count. Oh boy, don't respond to Daniel here, blowing up the pages.
Johnson.
215, folks.
So let me tell you how close this is, Todd.
Did not answer the call of the roll. They may come to the well and vote at this time.
So if all 434 members vote, you need 218 votes.
Stand right there.
If one vote's present, it goes down to 217. If 3 vote present, it goes down to 215. And I believe Gates' seat counts as a present vote. So we're within like one vote
Go
because of this freaking
Johnson.
grandstanding by Massey and Self and these other clowns.
Clyde Johnson.
217 for Johnson right now.
Give me 1 sec.
All right, folks, so you are watching Mike Johnson fails to secure the nomination after a first round of voting. Final tally is 216 for Johnson, 215 for Jeffries, and 3 other. Not listed on here. They're saying that there's 0 present votes. We'll have to double check that as well. But the math adds up that there's 434 votes. 1 member obviously missing.
Oh, did you catch up your feed, Todd? Big Bad saying it's behind.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Big Bad, I think this is a problem our viewers are having too, because I'm seeing news ahead of this on X. Unfortunately, we are on C-SPAN, and we're watching C-SPAN live, and so their coverage is just delayed. And then you add to the fact that our broadcast is likely getting delayed as it reaches you. So there is going to be a little bit of a behind effect. Yeah, so they're just going through all the comments there. All right, folks. So not a lot of new things to report right now. We got them just verifying the count. I'm sure they're all double, triple, quadruple checking the numbers here. They don't want to give anything away, but nobody got the threshold. Nobody got half of the votes in Congress. So Mike Johnson will go to round 2. And Jason, one of the things I was observing, my friend had said that they were voting present, but I see that the count for present votes is just 0. So we got the 3 others. I think the math gets us to 434 then. So I guess I'm not sure who's missing either.
Yeah, and like I say, I'll be curious the numbers for how many people are in the House right now. Because what is it, 215, 214?
Yeah, they keep finding new votes. So now it's 216, 215.
I love the fact, too, that you foreshadow that Stacey Plaskett lady from the Virgin Islands. And then she has a meltdown about
the best
a procedure.
part of the entire 3 hours we've been on here. Just, hey, Stacey is awful and miserable. And there she is, non-voting member, gets a platform even to speak. She shouldn't even be allowed to speak. This is for voting members only today. And then she wants to play the victim card to say, you're oppressing 4 million people, the largest home to vets. It's all empty grandstanding.
Right.
All right, Jason, but I was chatting you behind the scenes. Folks, I would love to stick around for round 2. Unfortunately, we're here 3 hours in, and I got littles to take care of. I got a few more things to do before littles come home, and so dad mode has to kick in, unfortunately. I'd love to stick around all day and do this feed, but life is going to get in the way here. But I just got to say, Jason, we have had some pretty consistent viewership for 3 hours. Folks, credit to you. Thank you for tuning in and watching today. It's been awesome getting your chats, responding to you. You've had to fact check us a couple times as well, so we got a really smart audience. I just want to say thanks again for choosing us to watch on Friday mornings.
Yeah, I was gonna say this has been great. We love doing these. We did that one election night live broadcast. We had like 30, 40 people hanging out with us all night. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Todd. We'll probably log off till next Friday. Although Todd will be back Tuesday, Thursday. And I'll be on the Week of Three podcast on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, folks, you can find me on another Rumble channel. So it is separate from this channel you're watching. We're on the American Tribune right now, but there's a second channel, theamericantribune.com, live with Todd Peterson every Tuesday and Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Central. I would love to see you over there. Hop on over, drop a comment, let me know you're watching, and we'll have some fun together there too.
Yeah, you know what you should do, Todd, is drop that in the description of this video. That way people can find it. But yeah, for those who don't know, Todd does this podcast there, and kind of like that Vindman piece we talked about earlier, like that's kind of Todd's MO. He's the deep dive, get into stuff, expose fake media narratives. It's it's great content. So I'm really proud to be a part of it. But thanks for everybody tuning us in here. Todd's got that dropped. All right. Oh, Rumble, you got to drop it in the Rumble chat. Oh, actually, I'm in Rumble. I can do it quick.
Cool. Well, with that, folks, we're going to get out of here. Let's stick around. I know I'll be watching on my phone here. Mike Johnson needs to become speaker. There's no second alternative, and we do not want Hakeem Jeffries in the chair. I don't know why we do this. This is why we can't have nice things. Republicans can never just make the easy choice and go with Johnson and move on with the agenda, but here we are. As to be expected, I suppose, Jason.
Well, yeah, and I got to say that, understanding, what the, I'm just dropping it in the chats for you, understanding what this game of chicken that we're playing, and that's why I'll have to see the total number of votes that they have there and flush them out. But I was reading that earlier. So if only 1 or 2 people are gone, it reduces the number of votes needed for Hakeem Jeffries to become speaker. So like if 3 Republicans went to the bathroom and didn't get their vote in and missed their vote, we could procedurally end up with Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House just because Republicans are stupid. This is a line. And I got to say, I already tweeted at Tom Massey, but Tom Emmer, are you kidding me? Like, I hate the swamp. Here's Tom Emmer. Oh, that's crazy. But folks, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been awesome. We'll see you, Todd and I'll see you all next Friday. We'll see a bunch of you on our podcast next week. Have a great weekend. Stay safe out there.
Catch you next week.
Starting on day one, we'll implement a rapid series of bold reforms to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Great again. Great again.